All right, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for being here this evening for our District 1 Town Hall. Greatly appreciate everyone's support. I know there's a lot going on. It's about 200 degrees outside. Everyone's hot, everyone's busy, but I appreciate you taking time to be here tonight. I think it's appropriate, given that we're in the house of the Lord, that we start this evening with a prayer. So those who are so inclined, please join me for a prayer. Please join me for the invocation. Please stand. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you for having us here in the house of the Lord, in your house. You're welcome. You are welcome here, and we appreciate your continuing grace and mercy that you pour out on us. We're so thankful, and we're not worthy. Please wrap your arms around this meeting. Give every person here the discernment and just the will to look at solutions to the challenges that we face and to turn them into opportunities with a positive spirit, with a positive attitude and a positive spirit. We ask all of this in your Son's name. Amen. Amen. Please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. He's got the spirit. I like it. I like your style. All right. Hey, we do these every 3-4 months, and when things pile up one after another, it's time to really come in and look at these things. So there's a lot on this agenda tonight. Here's the way that I like to run these. Number one, everyone's going to be heard. Everyone that took time out of their schedule is going to be heard. But what we're going to do is we're going to go through the litany and the list of all the issues that folks have brought up, emailed, phone calls, etc. And I've spent a lot of time down here recently for a lot of different reasons, and I've heard a lot of the issues. So we're going to go through them one by one, and I just want you to know our staff is dedicated. The relevant staff member from every department is here. We have every department head here, traffic, engineering. They're all here. So any question that you have, I'll try and answer it. If I can't answer it, they'll answer it. If they can't answer it, they'll take your information, they'll research it, and they'll respond, and they will send you something. So your questions are going to be answered. I will tell you up front, no miracles can be worked here. I mean, even though this is the house of the Lord, we have limited resources and unlimited wants, right? There's unlimited needs, unlimited wants, but we do the best we can. But I just want to, again, welcome you all. I want to thank the staff of Perdido Bay United Methodist Church. This is a wonderful facility. The air conditioner is ice cold, part of the reason why I chose this place. Some churches you go in, maybe not so much, right? This one, ice cold. It was like, she said it at 68. I like her style too. Okay, so we have all the staff here, but I am now going to bring up the quarterback of the team. Like, we're over here on the sidelines, but we have a quarterback on our team, and he's got to deal with all the day-to-day stuff, 2,200 employees, contracts, contractors, some board member drama sometimes. He's good at taking care of that too. But this is the guy that really makes it all happen. Just one heck of a guy. He's given over 35 years of his life to this county. Please join me in welcoming Wes Marino, our county administrator.
Thank you, Commissioner. It's always good. I joke around. I tell people we've been on a tour the past couple of months. We got a lot of work done. It's a great night. Love being here, meeting with the citizens, interacting with the citizens. I always love to take the input. Some of it's easy to listen to, some of it's not, but that's okay. That's just how it is. We're happy to be here. We're happy to listen. I got the best staff in the world sitting right over there. That whole little group over there. I got Drew, I got Chris, Jamie, Joy, Eric, Matt, Rob, Horace, Michael. That's the best group ever. I can't do what I do without them.
And we got Davis and David.
You got Davis and David, absolutely. CMR. And so we're happy to be here tonight. We hope to answer all your questions. We'll hang around afterwards a little bit if you have any more. But Jeff, I'll go ahead and... So I've told little stories the past couple times.
Yep, let's hear it.
All right.
I'm ready.
So there's a realtor,
Okay.
and he's out, and he's driving down a country road out there, and he's running about 60 miles an hour. And he looks out the window, and there's a chicken keeping pace with him. And he looks again, the chicken passes him. So he's following the chicken hangs a right, goes down a side road, and he runs up to a piece of farm property, and the farmer's out there. So the realtor turned in, he says, "Hey, did you see a chicken come through here?" He said, "Yeah." He said, "Did it look like it had 3 legs?" He goes, "Yeah, I breed them that way." He said, "Well, why do you breed them that way?" He says, "Well, I like the drumstick. Ma likes the drumstick. And now we got Junior, and he likes the drumstick. We got tired of fighting over the drumstick. So the realtor says, well, how do they taste? He says, I don't know. We ain't caught one yet. It's all you, man.
Good job. Thank you, Wes. Even though I think that was funny, Wes, I wouldn't quit the day job yet. I mean, the last one was better. The last one was better. All right. So what we're gonna do? We're gonna go right through all this. Wes just introduced the staff. They're all here. Are there any other elected representatives here? I didn't see any. We invited the others. Vicki Campbell was going to be here from ECUA. What about Bruce Woody? Is Bruce here? Did he make it down? Because I know a number of you have emailed me about the water pressure issue, and I know that they're installing a. I'm going to get this wording right. For the folks that have the question about the water pressure on InterAirity in particular, I'm going to read what she wrote, just in case Bruce Woody can't make it. If I can find this. My apologies. Okay. Nope, I'm sorry, I can't find it. They did say that they are going to be installing a bigger capacity pipe. That's coming to serve the InterAirity area. Apparently there's some houses down there that don't have a whole lot of water pressure, and so that's coming. If Mr. Woody comes in later, I'll certainly invite him up so he can fill you in. I wish I could do a better job. She texted it or emailed it, and I can't find it. So anyway, so no other elected officials present. We're going to keep moving forward. Okay, all the county staff have been introduced. All right, now we're going to talk. We're going to go right into infrastructure. Next to public safety is the number one job that we have. I mean, EMS, fire, funding our sheriff's office. That's number one. But a close second, in my estimation, is infrastructure, right? Because if we have the infrastructure right, that allows the private sector to thrive. When the private sector thrives, that spins off more money and revenue, and then we all do well. All the boats rise. So we've got a lot of different things going on. The first thing I'm going to talk about is probably something that is on the minds of many people in here. When this area of Escambia County reverted to District 1 in 2022, there was a project on the books. It was fully funded, and I was told it was something that the community wanted. Anyone? Raise your hand if you think you know what I'm talking about. Okay, you guys have probably been to my town halls before. The roundabout. But here's some good news for you. We know it's a problem. Everyone knows, right? The Geico caveman, everyone knows. The Geico owl, everyone knows it's a problem. You don't even have to be an engineer to know it. So here's what we've done. We have engaged an engineering firm, and they have brought recommendations. I am going to receive those recommendations in September. They're going to have simulations of what it would look like. I'm not an engineer, but I can tell you this. The lane's got to be centered. When you're coming from this side of the bridge over to that side, you barely have to swerve to get through it. You got trucks going right through it. Then we had a truck the other day, couldn't navigate it, got stuck. It was a nightmare. You should have seen my phone was blowing up like an atomic bomb. I'm told the trucks can go through it. It's designed, and they drag the trailer over the portion of it. This guy, I don't know, he was trying to go all the way around it. I don't know what he was doing, but it was a nightmare. But the fix is coming. It's early September, mid-September, Chris? Mid-September, we're going to have simulations, and they're going to be able to run what it will look like if we enlarge it, because it needs to be larger, and those lanes have to be centered. If I believe if all three lanes are centered, that gives every car the opportunity to transit and kind of maneuver around it. Right now, if you're coming around from Johnson's Beach Road and you're trying, the traffic coming, from Pensacola going to the beach, they're not slowing down. I'm worried we're going to have a collision. I'm worried we're going to have a fatality. So I just want everyone to know I'm well aware of the issues with that roundabout. Ever since I inherited it, and I was told everyone liked it, and everyone loved it and wanted it, I still can't find anyone to this day who likes it now. Does anyone like it? Yeah. Oh, so wait, someone raised their hand. Oh, I'm sorry. You're now instantly a pariah. Sorry. No, but in all seriousness, I've traveled a lot. Wisconsin has them all over the place. Arizona, nice cities in Arizona. Sonoma has a ton of them. Overseas in Europe, I've driven through. I mean, they work, but they have to be designed right. They have to be big enough, and the lanes have to be centered. You don't even have to be an engineer to know that. So we're going to be doing that, right? Okay, I stole a little bit of Chris's thunder. Now we're going to talk about some FDOT transportation projects. Here's the key. We have a lot of roadways that run through this entire county. A lot of them are not even ours. They're state roadways. But the good news is the state has got a lot more money than we do, right? They have $13.5 billion in their work plan this year. It's an incredible amount of money. So how do we get that money resourced and allocated and appropriated to Escambia County? Well, we do it through a board made up of county commissioners from Santa Rosa County, from Escambia County, the Pensacola City Council, Orange Beach, Baldwin County. It's called the Florida-Alabama Transportation Planning Organization. Every federal dollar that comes to the state has to go through that organization, and we prioritize the schedules. Now, here's the bad news. Some of those lists have 20, 25, 30 projects, so it's a fight. It's like the Lord of the Flies. Anyone familiar with that movie? It's a battle, right? So you gotta fight hard to get it. We've been very fortunate in Escambia County. Many of you know we got the Highway 29 interchange, $200 million project. We just got another $240 million project in the northern part of District 1, the Beulah interchange. That was because the Florida-Alabama Transportation Planning Organization had that as its #1 priority. #1. Not only that, your Board of County Commissioners had that as the #1 project. So when Senator Broxson, who was the chair of the Appropriations Committee, got some money and it spun loose from Central Florida, because we had that lined up, he was able to get it. So we just got $240 million for the Beulah interchange. Now, that's a long way from here, but I can tell you, every member of the Board of County Commissioners has voted that the #1 project, because it is. That area is booming and blowing up, and once we have that second exit, the benefits trickle down. They do. But I'd say all that to say, there's a list of projects down here, and when you know how to navigate the Florida-Alabama Transportation Planning Organization, and you have a good rapport with your state representatives, the money's gonna flow. So we got that money. We got $50 million for Exit 5 to redo that, and we're about to get $160 million for Pine Forest Road. That's part of Governor DeSantis's Florida Forward plan. And so Pine Forest Road, it'll redo the interchange. A diverging diamond, I think, is what it is. They're going to redo Wild Lake and Pine Forest, and that's another $160 million. So you can do the quick arithmetic: 240 at at the Beulah interchange, 50 at Exit 5, and now 160. So I say all that to say, if we need big appropriations for these state roads, we have to be engaged with the Florida-Alabama Transportation Planning Organization. Every member of the Board of County Commissioners is also a member of that board. Now I'm going to ask for a show of hands. How many people have ever come to the bi-monthly meeting of the Florida-Alabama Transportation Planning Organization? Okay. So here's the important thing. Right now, Escambia County has the chairmanship. My 3rd year on the board, I was the vice chair. My 4th year, I was the chair. A lot of people want that position because it's powerful. Right now, we're in a good position. Stephen Barry is the chairman of that board. So I look forward to getting a lot more appropriations. Now, a road of interest down here, Sorrento Road. I'll give you a little history, and then I'll tell you where we're at with it right now. Elections have consequences. Commissioner Gene Valentino, how many people remember him? Remember Gene? Okay. Well, Gene had a lot of good ideas, and one of them, he actually had almost to the finish line. That was 4-laning all of Perdido Key and Sorrento Road. He had that at the finish line, funded, 2014. The problem is he also wanted to build a bingo palace casino. That kind of irritated a lot of people, and they gave him the walking paper, 65-35. It was really a blowout, and they blew him out. So the next commissioner came in, and guess what? He didn't want it 4-laned. He didn't want it, and he killed it. And that's why you've got Sorrento Road, 1 lane, and a bunch of white crosses and a bunch of crosses, a lot of dangerous driving habits, a lot of head-on collisions. When this part of the district reverted to District 1 in 2022, that project, the 4-lane Sorrento, was number 18 on the list. 18. We started advocating it. We immediately leapfrogged 10 projects and got it up to 8. At the last meeting of the TPO, we bumped that thing up to 6. It's moving. So here's the good news, too. Part 2 of the good news. So it's now number 6. It's desperately needed. Now, some people go, well, why do you need it? Here's why. All it takes is one guy going below the speed limit. Let's just say they're going below the speed limit, taking a Sunday drive, and you got someone behind him trying to get to the condo, to clean it, or whatever the case might be. Then you get road rage, and then you get them passing, and then you have a head-on wreck. That's what happens. It takes one guy. If you have a 4-lane road, you can pass those people, right? Plus, there's enough traffic now, we need it. We need it. So we're moving that forward. I wanted you to know exactly where that's at. And the next part of the good news is this. Our next senator that's going to represent our county, Santa Rosa County, and a small sliver of Okaloosa is a former senator, and he's very powerful. His name is Don Gates. How many people remember President Don Gates? He was the president of the Senate. God, it's funny how people forget. Anyway, he was in office from 2006 to 2016, and he was the president of the Senate from 12 to 14. Here's something you'll know where he left his mark. He's the one who got $421 million for that Pensacola Bay Bridge. And they were going to make it a tollway bridge. They were going to make it, the bureaucrats. He had so much juice in Tallahassee that he got that turned around. And that's why we have a brand new bridge going to Pensacola Beach, and it's not a toll bridge. Why do I say all that? Because you got to know your history to know what's coming in the future. Don Gates is running for Senate. He's going to win. He doesn't have any kind of opposition. And he's going to go back to Tallahassee with all of his juice and all of his connections. And our county and our Board of County Commissioners has an excellent relationship with Senator Gates. So we look at the big ticket items. What do we need out here? Well, that Bars Bridge, I'm worried about that. You drive over that thing, those expansion joints, I'll tell you what, they feel like a miniature speed bumps, right? Think about a hot summer day and all those big trucks. What if it's backed up both directions? That bridge has exceeded its lifespan. So what do? We have to start advocating. We have to take the long view. That's on this list. That's on a list of things that we're going to look at doing. We're also going to look at getting the utilities on Perdido Key undergrounded. I'm working on that already because I think that's very important. I see an agree card. Or yeah, we're gonna have time to talk about that later. But I wanted to let you know, but you can't get these big things done by yourself. You have to have 3 votes on the Board of County Commissioners, and you have to have good relationships with our legislative delegation. I have a very good working relationship with Representative Andrade, and I have an excellent relationship with the firecracker, Michelle Salzman. She's an amazing state rep, the hardest working person that I probably know. I mean, she's just incredible. I don't know how she does it all. I don't know how she fits it all in 24 hours, but that's important. Okay, I want to talk to you about, but first, before I do, I want to bring up Chris Phillips. Chris Phillips, you talk about hardworking people. Chris Phillips has the wonderful, lovely job of being in charge of all the traffic in Escambia County. Believe me, he's a popular guy. His email box fills up. Welcome Chris Phillips tonight. He works hard. Chris, thanks for being here.
Yes, sir.
And Chris is going to bring an update on very important projects, including, Blue Angel. When are those segments going to be 4-laned? He's going to bring an update on all the state projects and some other projects. So, Chris, thank you for being here.
Yes, sir. Good evening, everyone. Thanks for coming out. With you being here, you're among the few that actually care to find out what's going on, and we appreciate you being here without question. Commissioner Burgash mentioned the 4-laning for Sorrento. So there are several stages. There are 3 main stages that a DOT project goes through. The first is preliminary design and environmental, where a consultant looks at all of the environmental aspects, whether it's wetlands, wildlife, socioeconomic factors as to where the road can be. So the 4-laning of Sorrento is currently in that phase. Escambia County fronted the money to kind of speed that up, not only moving it up the process, but to get that going. So they're definitely, the consultant is looking at that. They're looking right now at potential retention pond parcels, and we expect that PD&E to be completed in February of 2026. And again, that is a long time, but that is a federal process that you must go through to be able to use federal dollars. In the meantime, you noticed over the last year, there was a resurfacing project along that same stretch of road where they added the paved shoulders. And at our behest, with Commissioner Burgash leading the charge, they put on the audible pavement markings, the little reflectors you see, that help alert drivers if they're drifting off of the road or drifting across the center line, because that seemed to be one of the main causes of the fatalities out there. So that has helped tremendously. And the next phase of the Sorrento resurfacing is from Bower onto across Blue Angel onto Old Gulf Beach Highway. And there you can expect the same thing. You can expect the paved shoulders and obviously new pavement, because we all know that it desperately needs it. And like I said, the audible pavement markings, the paved shoulders, and the new pavement. That stretch is expected to be bid this upcoming May. So you'll see, probably next summer, you're going to see some action out there. We had mentioned the repaving, and with the repaving of Sorrento came the intersection improvements just out here. And one of the things that was added was the white delineator post at the intersection of Sorrento and I believe the name of the road is Morella Street. And the idea there is to break up that right turn lane. But what we have found is that we need the extra storage in that right turn lane to be able to get folks onto Inter-Arity Point Drive. So yesterday I had a conversation with DOT, and they're putting in an order to eliminate those white plastic posts so that you'll be able to get into that turn lane earlier and make the turn and go on to the west on Inner Point Drive. So you can expect to see some improvements there fairly quickly. On Blue Angel Parkway, the intersection of Blue Angel and Grand Bahama Drive, that particular intersection has warranted a traffic signal. If you go through there or if you live in the Grand Bahama subdivision, you know that it's very difficult to get out of there. So DOT will be looking at that beginning this fall, and they have a pot of money for these type of upgrades, and they're going to work that into their schedule and get that signal going fairly quickly. There is a Blue Angel 4-lane initiative from Highway 98 up to Pine Forest Road. That particular stretch is in that PD&E stage that I mentioned earlier. And with that, you know, it's a long process, but they have already been looking at retention pond sites throughout there. So we expect that, you know, to take anywhere from 2.5 to 3 years as they go forward. The Blue Angel 4-lane from Sorrento to 98, that is designed. So that phase is already designed, and they're currently going through right-of-way acquisition process to be able to facilitate not only the retention ponds that are needed, but to widen the road. So we definitely look forward to that kicking off and getting going. If you travel up Blue Angel Parkway, when you get up to the very north, there's a really sharp curve, and it's fairly dark right there. So DOT has a lighting project there in 2026 to light that corner to help folks. Apparently there are a lot of lane departures due to the sharp curve in the dark. So you can expect that further in 2026. You know, Commissioner Bergosh, when he hears from you, essentially I hear from you. And
Instantaneously.
it's fairly quickly, and that's what we're here for. We're here to help folks. And we've been getting some calls recently about the lighted crosswalks on Perdido Key Drive. It's beyond me how you depart the road and hit one of those and destroy it, but it happens. I don't understand. But so there are 3 that are currently in various states of disrepair. The first one I'd like to talk about is at the Perdido Sun and the Jellyfish Bar area. We have just found that one has just simply stopped working. So we're going to be working on that one to get it going again. The one at the Sea Spray condo, that crosswalk, was damaged during the construction of the multi-use path that was just completed. So we're working with the contractor that damaged that to be able to get that one back up and going. Literally half of that one works, but the other half doesn't. So we're working to get that one completely fixed up. And lastly, the crosswalk at Lost Key, that's the one that was hit, completely destroyed, but my guys were able to go out and cobble it back together enough to where it does at least work now. But we'll be going through and replacing that one. It's like any electronic equipment that you think you need, there is a delay. And we are, you know, COVID is over, maybe, but we are still suffering the effect of supply chain. And when there are electronic components involved, and there is a controller for those. When you hit the button, it activates a controller, and there's a timer that lets the lights know, you know, when to flash, how long to flash. And when those things are destroyed, it takes time to get those. So these items are all on our list to be able to get repaired. We've received calls about, at the main intersection up here, there are a few, one leg of the pedestrian crossings has been out just about since the intersection was rebuilt. I'll tell you about it. The intersection's open, everything's working great. Verizon Wireless decides they need to bore underneath the road to run a fiber optic line to give you all better service. And they clipped the conduit under the road. And so we immediately start calling DOT to find out if they had the appropriate permitting. We call Verizon. Verizon sends us to the contractor that did the actual boring. The contractor claims we did not mark the location of the line correctly. That's false. And so several months go by. We can't get anybody to do anything. We come to find out that Verizon has fired that contractor. They will never be allowed to work for Verizon again because not only have they done that here, but they've done it elsewhere. And we can't get anything out of Verizon at this point. Last week, we took one more shot at Verizon, and we got someone who was willing to help finally So we're working with a new contractor that they have hired to finally get a new boring done and to get our part repaired so that when you go press the button, it tells you when you can walk and when you can't walk. So I know that's a long explanation, and that's really kind of a pitiful explanation, but that's the facts. I mean, that's the way it worked out. We recognize that obviously it's a safety factor, safety issue there, and we're trying really hard to get that all squared away. The last thing I have on my list pertains to the Perdido Key multi-use path. The last phase, we just got the ribbon on it a few weeks ago. It looks fantastic. People are using it. Our law enforcement partners have talked to us about how nice it is to have people over there and not actually in the road. And so these things were part of an effort not only by the board, but by staff to get grants and to be able to get this thing paid for. We don't mind using other people's money.
That's right. We like it.
So, take advantage of that. There's more to come there. We're, looking at some parking underneath the Bars Bridge to, have a nice little trailhead type deal. So that's really all I have. If you have any further questions.
Don't go far, because I
I
have a
won't.
feeling you might be asked some other
I
questions.
never do.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you, Chris Phillips. That guy takes a lot of heat, let me tell you. Lots of heat. All right. Next up, we're going to talk about, this is a cool project. So did Chips make it tonight? No, I didn't. But Tim's here. Tim's here to talk about this. This is a real cool project. I'm going to set it up, though. So just give me 1 second. So just off the coast of the Sunset Grill are some small islands, right? Very shallow water. But about 14 years ago, we had an employee of the county named Sava Verrazzo, who had this great idea. Instead of taking the dredge spoils, every couple of years you got to dredge the channel, right? It gets too shallow and the sand accumulates, you got to dredge it. So he said, instead of stacking it up along the intercoastal and real high next to these people's houses, he says, why don't we take and we'll go ahead and use that dredge spoil and we'll make these islands real big. And it'll be great because not only will it be a great amenity for the boaters, I mean, it would have made the island big enough to have 100 boats. But when the hurricane comes, they got this nifty conveyor system with PVC pipes, and they can shoot the sand directly to the other side and get it right to the beaches and save 90% of the cost. Before, they would have to run trucks from Bower Road all the way down, destroyed Bower Road after the hurricanes, right? So this was a great project. And elections have consequences. A new guy came in, and the project died. Well, I heard about it recently. Well, guess what? We spent $200,000. We're bringing that thing and we're putting it back on the board. We're going to build those islands, and it's going to be amazing. I'm telling you what. And the great thing is, we'll have that sand ready to go. Not only will that be a benefit when it comes time to replenish the sands after a storm, but wildlife, the nature, the birds, it's going to be a fantastic amenity. So that's coming. We spent $200,000 out of my discretionary, but now that I've stolen your thunder, now come explain how it all works. Oh, by the way, this is Tim Day. He's one of the hardest working guys. Give him a hand. He also was in charge of code enforcement. So he gets to do all that fun stuff.
Yeah, so good evening. So the good news is now you know all about the project. All right. So everyone knows about the project now, but I am going to give you a couple more details. So when the Corps does do the dredging of the intercoastal, those houses that are on Waterview Drive and along River Road right underneath the Theo Bars Bridge, that's where they pump the sand. I don't know who engineered that, but if you're trying to keep water out of the intercoastal canal, I don't think the best place to pump it is right up next to the canal for it to slough right back into the canal. So really one of the big beauties, long-term savings for taxpayers on this is in the areas where these islands are, and they are original spoil islands from when the intercoastal was dredged. And in your booklets, for those that have it, there's a conceptual on the last page that shows a great big monster island. In all likelihood, there will be a number of iterations over time because these will be built as the Corps does the maintenance. So, every 5 or 10 years, they may pull, say, 100,000 cubic yards of sand. We may have a hurricane, and they may move 1 million cubic yards of sand. So what we're trying to do is facilitate a process to make it very easy for the Corps to get that sand out and away from the intercoastal so that our commerce can happen. But the secondary benefits are, because it's right across from Galvez Boat Launch, It's a nice convenient spot where you can recreate on this side. And as the commissioner brought, there's, you know, some wildlife as well. Certainly for nesting shorebirds, it'll be a huge boom. But, so we're in the process of procurement. We'll have a consultant on board very, very shortly. We'll coordinate with the Corps. We'll get the permits that will allow it to happen. And in this particular case, it'll have to wait just a little bit because we won't see sand move until it's time for the Corps to do their first dredge after we get the permit. So we'll put breakwaters in on the intercoastal side to kind of ring it in a little bit. And then it'll allow the Corps to go ahead and start pumping sand and restoring these islands. So, but it's, you know, to me, it's one of the best long-term savings projects we have for public works. You know, when we get hit by how many were here for Ivan? Oh, yeah. Okay. Does everyone remember how hard it was to get that emergency berm built after Ivan? We were going great. We got about halfway through the project and we ran out of sand to build it. And now, in this case, I do feel sorry for the folks on Waterview because we pumped a whole lot of sand onto their backyards. But it was a disposal area that we were able to harvest that sand and finish building the berm. You know, the beauty of this is we're now going to have another sand source that we can rapidly get to help get the protective berm rebuilt after storms without all the hassle and panic of, you know, are we going to have to get it from an inland source? What are we going to do? We have the sand. We're ready to go. So,
Thank you. Thank you very much. Hey, don't go far, though. Thank you, Tim. I'm not going to let him go far. No, because I want to talk about sidewalks now, too. So we've got this beautiful multi-use path, and it's on the north side of the road, which is great. It's fantastic. But where are all the people in the core of Perdido Key? They're all on the south side. So I've been talking with him. That was the original vision, and we are going to look into putting sidewalks from River Road all the way to the Bars Bridge on the south side of the road. That's coming. We're looking. Do you want to come up and explain what we have to do in terms of mitigation and studies or anything like that? Because I know there's habitat stuff, there's the mouse, but according to him, I think we can do it. Am I right?
so yeah, the solution to beach mice is, who remembers? Beach cats. There we go. So when the multi-use path was originally envisioned, we had a sidewalk plan for the south. And really, like a lot of things that happen, you plan things, you reach big, and then at some point you got to find the money to pay for it. And so ultimately we just didn't have sufficient funding at the time to build the sidewalks because we just didn't have the money. But we are going to push forward and you know, start looking at, keep moving funding sources because the multi-use path is done. And so some of those grant sources that helped us create that path now are available to help us look for additional sidewalks because, you know, it's wonderful to have the multi-use path. We're going to have a lot of commercial there at some point on the north side. It's going to be wonderful, but where are all the people now? They're on the south side. And so, you know, you have a grass strip, you walk up to your crosswalk to go across to go get to a multi-use path. So, no, it was fully envisioned, and I'm really looking forward to us, you know, resurrecting the sidewalks on the south side.
All right. Thank you, Tim.
Thank you,
All
sir.
right, that's good news. That's really good news. All right. Let's talk about, well, since you're there, you might as well just hang out right here. So we've been working for a long time. Everyone remembers the BP oil spill, how terrible it was. Well, we got the Restore Act, and we got different pots of money to use for different projects. And we've done a lot of great projects in Escambia County, but one of the ones that we are now exploring and going to get again is additional beach access, public beach access free with some additional parking. And we've recently, I don't want to steal too much thunder, but I don't know, it's great. I like to steal his thunder and then look at his expression. Tell us about the offer that's out right now.
So, for a number of years, we've been on and off in conversations with the owner of the property that's directly west of Beach Access Number 3. So between Access 3 and Perdido Key State Park, there's 3 parcels there. This one is the first adjacent parcel. We're excited because we've kind of got at least an offer and a counteroffer from the owner. And at next month's BCC meeting, we're going to be bringing it to the board for their consideration. And it's just wonderful things. That's it.
I think it's,
That's 100 feet.
yeah, and,
But it'll,
oh, yeah, tell
sorry.
it, no.
So just in terms of size, it is another 100 feet, but it will effectively double access number 3. It may be a little bit more than double in terms of total parking
Yeah, I was gonna
spaces.
say, how many parking spots when we're done with that?
Well, relying on engineering, but it should be at least another 25-ish or 30-ish spots in that particular location.
Hopefully more than that, but
Well,
where's the engineers at?
we'll
on,
get
Rob.
with them. Yeah, but, so are you going to talk about this winter for repaving?
Oh, yeah, let's do that. Yeah,
Okay. So has everyone,
Let him sit down.
yeah, so has everyone visited Beach Access number 2 recently and seen how beautiful it's now become?
6 extra spots, 6 extra
Yeah. So, and it's thanks to Michael Rhodes and Parks, who's, I don't know where Michael is, but
No, he's right there.
Yeah. But, so the original plan, actually with the commissioner this summer, is we were actually going to try to do 3 as well. But we made enough progress with this landowner on a possible acquisition that we decided to hold off till this winter for reconditioning number 3, simply because we have this opportunity to get this next parcel, and that'll reconfigure all the parking. And there's no sense in, building a parking lot and then, a year later, tear a bunch of it up and rebuild it into something bigger and better. But if you like access number 2, in the very near future, access number 3 will be very close to it, but much larger.
That's great news. That's great news. Thank you, Tim. Well, yeah, I've been pushing that for a long time because obviously they're not making any more of that property, right? And it's very valuable. And most importantly, there's a lot of folks, frankly, in the west part of Escambia County, and I've been meeting a lot of them lately, as you can imagine. Maybe they don't have the money to take their whole family to the National Seashore and pay the $20 cover charge or whatever it is these days. It's not cheap. Some people just can't afford it. And, we bring in a lot of tourist money. We bring in a lot of local option sales tax money. We do good. And I believe that's something, quality of life that we should, we live in a coastal community, and it's a crying shame. It's a travesty how many students, when I was on the school board, their parents never even took them to the beach. And I don't want cost to be a factor. I want them to be able to, the west side families, I want them to be able to use their beach, and I want them to have a nice, clean parking spot. And so that's what we're working on. And staff's been working really hard, but I was really impressed with the way 2 came out. 2 was terrible. That bathroom facility was just disgusting. It was constantly being vandalized. We found the most disgusting things inside there, drug paraphernalia, other things I won't mention because we're in church, right? But things you could imagine. So we leveled that thing. We have a nice latticed, we have porta potties if you got to do your business, but that freed up 6 additional spots. No more vandalism, no more $10,000 a pop to replace the toilets and the sinks. We're saving money. It's a better facility. Oh, and the parking lot. Remember that white shale stuff? And you'd pull your truck out, you'd have it all over the side of the truck. It's gone. It's a level surface now. It's so much nicer. If you haven't been at Access 2, go look at it, and then you're going to see what Access 3 is going to become over the winter. So we're very, very excited about that. All right. We got to talk a little bit about a one-way exit under the bridge, along with the roundabout, which I explained earlier how I inherited that. About a week after this area of Escambia County reverted to District 1, because this was always part of District 1 up until the year 2001. Then it was switched by a commissioner back then named W.D. Childers. He didn't want to deal with the beach mouse, so he got rid of this part of the county and he took Marcus Point. That's a fact. That's what happened. But so about a week after this portion reverted back to District 1, I got a phone call from Development Services, and they said, Commissioner, just in case you haven't heard, we're building a new apartment complex. And believe me, that's the quickest way to a Excedrin headache, because people like to live in apartments, but people don't like it when they find out they're being built, right? So I said, well, okay, well, where's it at? He said, it's in Perdido Key, and it's right under the bridge, and it's going to be 400 units or something like that. That's the first time I heard about it. So here's the thing. By the time I heard about it, it was already a done deal. They had a development order. It was going to happen. So what's the lesson of how that happened? The people were very angry because they didn't know. So here's the thing, and I've proposed this and we're working toward that. When something big like that's going to come in, from now on, we're going to redo this. The neighbors are going to be noticed, and they're going to be notified beforehand. That way they can come to the meeting and express their concerns. That's the least we can do. But here's something else that we're going to do, and we're working hard on it right now. We're going to bring back what's called concurrency, all right? Every large community, every large county in the state has some form of either transportation mobility fees, concurrency, or impact fees, which means the developers don't get to just bring a 400-unit apartment complex and just dump it when the roads can't handle it, when the stormwater can't handle it, when the school might be overcrowded. So I've been working, and I will report to you a couple of months back, we had a meeting, and the staff was directed. We had 3 votes that said, hey, bring us some recommendations. So a quick thing about concurrency, it's very basic. It just requires developers, it's an agreement between governments, school board, ECUA, and county. And when a development wants to come in and it's going to make an impact on an area, before they get that development order, before they get it, they have to go through each entity. Okay, how much school capacity do you have? Because the builders, the one thing I learned when I was on the school board, they don't want to build way far away. They want to build next to the best schools, right? Because they know that's what the parents care about. The problem is with the best schools in Escambia County, they're all overcrowded already. So what you have to do is you have to go to the school board. Do you have enough capacity? If not, they don't get to build there, or they have to pay more. For the county, what's your road system like? What's your level of service? What's your capacity on your roadways? Oh, you want to build 400 units? Well, we're going to look at that. You might have to widen the roads. You might have to add a traffic light or a turn signal. Every other community does this. We used to do it in Escambia County. It was actually in the state statutes until 2011. I always like to give the history lesson, and I always ask people to fact check me, because it's true. Because people beat me up about it all the time. How come you get to do this? Here's how it happened. In 2011, we were coming out of the recession. It was terrible. We all remember that. A lot of people lost their businesses, houses, and jobs. Well, in 2010, Governor Rick Scott was elected. In 2011, he took office. We were still kind of struggling as a state to come out of it. So he pulled that. He pulled that to kind of spur development. And so the county at that time in 2011, even though it was stripped from Florida statutes, they put it in the local land development code. So locally, we had concurrency. But then 2 years later, in 2013, that board at that time pulled it out because Escambia County was still struggling to come out of it. But here's the problem. Ever since that time, 2013, we've had no concurrency, we've had no impact fees, and we've got no transportation mobility fees. And I will tell you, I have nothing against builders. I'm all for good growth. But I think other parts of the country and other parts of the state do it the intelligent way. Growth is good, but you have to find a way to modulate and make sure that you're running your infrastructure as close to the development as you can. In other words, you can't bring in 400 units when the road can't handle it. That's what we've been doing in Escambia County. So I'm just telling you, that's coming. That's something that we're working on. It's something that we desperately need. Now, the builders, like I said, they don't like it. They look at this as something that's going to cost them money. But I can tell you this, there's not one home builder that's going to take a $2,000, say a $2,000 fee per single family home per home for the schools. There's not one of them that's going to eat that. They're going to pass it along. It'll be a pass-along cost. So I'm looking at that, and we're looking at concurrency, and that's something that I'm going to fight hard to bring back because I think we desperately need it. And I think the growth boom that we've seen in the northern part of the county, in Beulah in particular, I mean, the builders know our codes. They know our land development code better than we do, and they've outrun our infrastructure. So that's something that we're going to bring back. So I had that on my list to talk about so that people know that that's moving. I also want to talk about so that gigantic apartment complex came, and so the problem there is, had we had concurrency, I think they would have had to look at, well, wait a minute, how are you going to get out of there? You're going to try and make a left turn on a Perdido Key Drive when they're coming down, when the traffic's coming down the road? They wouldn't have allowed it. They would have said, you're going to have to, the project probably wouldn't have happened, because I don't know what the solution would have been. I don't think you could put a traffic light on the end of a bridge. I don't know what you would have done. But here's something, but now that we have it, here's the thing. I never like to lay a problem down and just leave it right there, because problems don't get better with age, right? You can't just admire it. You got to fix it. So I'm working with environmental, so I might, Tim, come on down. So look, this is a long shot, but I think it's something we can do. If you look, okay, Canal Street goes under that bridge, right? And then there's like a little dirt road and it goes into the state park. Here's what I think we need to do. So we got that big apartment complex. Look, we can't put the toothpaste back in the tube. It's there. It's going to happen. But to make it safer, I'm proposing a one-way road under that bridge that comes up alongside the bridge and then merges onto Perdido Key Drive, right? Just one way, so for exiting. So people in that apartment complex, they don't have to sit there and try and make a left turn, have wrecks. But here's the problem. It's always the environmental stuff, right? So there's some wetlands. So Tim, how do we make that happen? I give him the easy stuff, see?
Yeah. Well, so it's really at this point, we're in the exploration mode, trying to find a solution because it's a problem that definitely has to have a solution. In all likelihood, it's part of the coordination is going to be with FDOT because it's their right of way, and we're also going to have to work with Big Lagoon State Park because they're the adjacent landowner, and and really work with them just to see if we can come to a solution where we're able to utilize a little bit of the state park property. There are a lot of potential solutions if we can get them to go for it. The county is a landowner next to the state park in many different areas, so we can look at things like a land swap and find ways to make it happen. And so once we get through the conceptual, where we're at a good definite maybe we can make it happen. Then we'll start working with engineering and the traffic folks to get the engineers in to make absolutely certain what we need to make it happen, and push as hard as we can to turn this into a reality.
Thank you, Tim.
So.
All right, thank you. I do this a lot to these guys. I give them these outlandish things. To me, it's common sense. Why can't we do it? Well, then there's a million reasons. The salamander, the this, the that. I'm like, let's use some common sense. God bless these guys. They got to follow the rules and everything. But I just want to get things done. Okay. There's a development. Okay, this is interesting. This time of year, during a campaign, this is not a campaign event, but this time of year during campaign season, there's this phenomenon that happens. What these guys do in terms of developing apartments or subdivisions, it's pretty routine. We do it year round. We do it every year. But in an election year, it gets sent immediately to the Pensacola News Journal, and then they put it on the front page because they know it stirs the pot, right? There's a lot of people that don't want another person to move here, right? They don't, and the News Journal knows it, and they sell more papers. So recently, there was a project that was socialized, and I don't even think, was a pre-app put in for Valencia Market or Valencia Square? Okay, so a pre-app was put in. It's this gigantic development on Perdido Key, and it's ridiculous. May I just say, I will. It's ridiculous. It's right in the middle of critical habitat. It's got several roads going right over wetlands. How many permits would they need from how many people? Like 8 different agencies? It's ridiculous. No permits have even been applied for. And they want to do this and all these impacts. And to me, look, I'm not a planner, but right, I wasn't an engineer either. I knew that roundabout wasn't going to work. It doesn't look like it even comports with the master plan. So people have asked me, what about Valencia Market? What is it called? Valencia Market? Valencia Square? Valencia Square. They said, well, what do you think about that? If I get a vote on it, it's dead on arrival. It's dead. We cannot keep allowing these gigantic, impactful things to happen when our roads can't keep up. We've got to get concurrency back in our land development code. And I could use your help with that. One thing I've seen in the school district and on the county commission, if citizens want something to be done, they have to show up. They have to come to our meeting. Sometimes you have to wear the same colored shirt. You got to yell and scream at us. But guess what? It works. Remember the word concurrency. Learn about it. We need to bring it back. I've brought it several times. I haven't had the votes. This time, I believe I've got 3 votes. Staff is working on it. See, Wes is nodding his head. Look, sometimes things take a long time. The fire station we just opened in Beulah took 7.5 years. Can you believe it? The library we opened in Bellevue, it's beautiful. How many people have been to the Bellevue Library? I know it's a long way from here. That library is amazing. And I'll tell you what, we took an old Wells Fargo bank, and people go, what are you're gonna buy a bank? Yeah, we bought the bank, we redesigned it, we essentially just demoed it from the inside out and built over it, and now we've got this incredible, incredible library for the kids. There's a Bellevue Elementary, Bellevue Middle, and you know what? That was the only area of the entire county that didn't have a library. So I'm very proud, but it took 5.5 years, 7.5 years for the Beulah Fire Station. The boat launch, if you haven't seen that yet, that's incredible. It's up the road on Lillian. Yeah, we've got like a total of 80 spots. You're never gonna, the only problem is you got to motor a little ways. It's Perdido Bay, but you've got a gigantic facility and but that took 10.5 years. So when people go, well, you haven't got concurrency, big things take a long time in government. It's not like Elon Musk. He's a billionaire. He can make a skyscraper up here tomorrow. We can't do that. We got to follow all the rules and regulations, the salamander, the rat, everything. So, and then I got to get 3 votes, and we got to get money. So anyway, I say all that to say, help me help you. Concurrency, remember the word. Come to the meetings. When it's on the agenda, please do me a favor. Come to the meetings. it's not like it's something that's not done everywhere else. When I came to this office in 2016, we were the only county, 67 counties in the state of Florida. We were the only county that were building our flood ponds to the 25-year flood standard. Every other county had gone to 100. And when we get a flood, people flood. Well, it's because we were the last ones to go because the developers didn't want to build it that way. It costs more money, right? So we fixed that. They're still making a ton of money. I'll give you one other quick example, then we're going to move on. The hotel industry, very, very profitable. They had a rough patch, with the oil spill. That was rough on them. Then COVID happened. But a lot of them got the giant ham sandwich from the federal government, right? They all got the COVID recovery money. So they still did fine. Well, we were the only county that was charging 4 pennies on the dollar for the hotel tax. Every county around us was charging 5. You can do a lot with that money. Each penny represents $3 million. And the great part is it's not taxpayer money from you guys. It's people from out of town leaving their money here. And they were so mad at me. They go, Bergosh, you're going to cost us business, And I said to them, wait a minute. I stay at hotels all over the country as a part of what I do in my job, in my day job. I've never once, and neither has my boss, ever looked at what the hotel tax is. But that's ridiculous. You look at the bottom line number on hotels.com, you pick a room, and so anyway, long story short, it took 3.5 years to get that. 3.5 years of fighting, but we got it. Now we got 5 cents on the pen, and so we're making every 10 years, an extra $30 million. We're putting that back into the Bay Center. We're going to build a sports complex up on Ashton Brosnahan. We're going to do a lot of good money with out-of-town money. But I say all this, the point I'm trying to make is the hoteliers, they put a hit on me. They had a hit squad out for me. They were very mad. But guess what? They didn't go bankrupt. They're making more money than ever. And now we're recouping that 5th penny, and we're going to do a lot of good things with it. I say that because the builders will do just fine if we bring back concurrency. They'll be fine. Trust me. God bless. And I love those guys. A lot of them write me checks, and I tell them I like impact fees, and they still write me checks. So anyway, hopefully they will continue to do that. But I need your help to get that implemented. I need 3 votes. I feel like I got 3 votes to bring it forward, but when it is on the agenda, believe me, it's going to be good for this community for the long run, because what we see now is just the beginning. We live in a beautiful state. We have beautiful weather. We have beautiful water. We have a great governor. We have great tax structures. That's why people are leaving these other places like Illinois, New York, and California. They're taking all that money and coming here. Now your property values are up, but we need to keep our infrastructure going. So concurrency, just remember that word. If you remember nothing else about tonight, just remember that word, please. Okay. I talked about the apartment ordinance. I believe that we need to redo the land development code. We need to add concurrency, and we need to add notice requirements. We've already updated the parking. They had this ridiculous thing where that you were only having to do 1.5 spaces per bedroom or something crazy, and they were building these apartments up by the university in Stephen Barry's district. And they were making these apartments for students, knowing that you'd pack 5 or 6 students, each one of them have a car, and there was no parking. So we fixed that. I believe we need a standalone apartment ordinance. I believe that'll be part of the land development code that we're going to redo when we bring back concurrency. So just watch for that. I want to talk also about incorporation. A lot of people, I've had a lot of emails, a lot of questions. I haven't even looked at the cards yet, but I will say this. There was a movement afoot to incorporate a large swath of this area. How many people are aware that there was a movement to incorporate? Okay. Most people in the room. I know there was a lot of mixed emotions about it, but I can tell you I've been asked about it. Listen, if you have a county commissioner that's doing his job, you don't need an extra layer of government. That's my personal opinion. Obviously, it's your right if you want to vote for it, but here's what I would say. The government that is closest to you is the best. And there's nothing that gets improved when you add another layer and then another layer of taxes and another layer of bureaucracy. And so I would simply tell you this, as your county commissioner, if you need something, call me. I answer my phone. I answer my emails. I really do. If I don't, staff will. I do. And I'll work with you and I'll be fair. But this idea that we've got to, because here's the thing that really never came out. And I'm not going to belabor the point because I know there's probably some in the room that wanted it, right? But here's the thing. You've got to tell the truth and you've got to level with people. I met a lot of people who were under the impression that if they incorporated, they just got to slice off all the county's millage and all the county's fees and they would keep all that money. They really believe that. I had to explain to them. I go, well, let me just help you out here. We're still getting ours. The sheriff's going to get his. School board's going to get theirs. So anything you're going to do, you've got to add more taxes. You've got to add more revenue. And then you got to figure out what you're going to do. And the other question you got to ask is, okay, if we do incorporate, what am I going to get for it? I asked that question. What are you? And I couldn't get a straight answer. I could not get a straight answer. You're not going to bring your own police force. You're going to use our code enforcement. You're going to use our sheriff. You're going to use our fire service. So why are you going to put 10 guys on a payroll and start taxing people if you're not going to bring any additional services? So if that comes up again, I want you to know where I stand on it. I don't think you need it, but if you want it, it's your right to vote for it. But ask the questions and make sure that they're telling you the full details. Don't let them just come in and, because I'll tell you this, I did my homework. I went to every one of their meetings at Liberty Church. That's a very beautiful church. They had the sound system, the video presentation, the music, it was very, very well done. And they even had a guy there who was an expert, and he had this app on his phone. And he said, if you have questions, I'll answer all the questions. So I sat there and I asked 5 or 6 questions. I knew where to put my finger on the jugular, and I asked the right questions. Guess what? Not one of them got answered. I wasn't the only one. So it died of its own weight. Representative Andrade realized what I knew all along, that it was going to be a big tax increase on people, and he pulled the bill. So if you want it, that's great, but just do yourself a favor and ask the questions and watch your wallet. Because one thing I will also tell you about this, because I've studied it, it's Chapter 161, Section 161, Chapter 61 of the Florida statutes talk about incorporation. And in order to get to a point where you get to share the revenue, the half-cent sales tax, you have to raise the equivalent of 3 mills on your tax roll. Now, the study area of this incorporation was gigantic, and it was $3.6 billion was the property value. 3 mills of that's over $10 million. But guess what? There's only 3 ways to get it. You're either going to raise your ad valorem tax, watch your tax bill, and you're going to get brand new utilities taxes, watch your utility bill, or business taxes. So the people who were going to get triple whammied were any business owner in this study area that owned his own property. So look, it's gone now, but people have asked me. I'm pretty plain spoken. I think everyone in this room kind of knows where I'm at now. But if you want it, it's your right to vote for it. But I don't think you need it unless they're going to bring you something for it. Now, I will say there's parts of the city in the downtown improvement area. They pay a very high millage. They pay all county, all city, plus a couple extra points, and they get a lot for it. They get their own police department, their own fire department. They get additional services, cleaning. They have events down there, and they like it. Some people like to pay more in taxes. But the thing that I always thought was there's a lot of out-of-town people invested their life savings in properties out at Perdido. Didn't even know about this. Wouldn't have a vote on it. They're suddenly going to get jacked with a brand new high tax bill, and they never even had a say. So I'd like to find a way to make sure to give them a voice too. So anyway, if there's any other questions, we'll talk about that later. Let's move on to a development update. We talked about Valencia Square. Okay, here's Joy Blackman. It's Europe. We're going to talk about, this is a cool project. Over there by the Oyster Bar, Gongora, Don Carlos, those streets with the giant pits. We got an exciting project coming, and I'm not going to steal all your thunder. No, I'm not going to steal all the thunder, but there's a pretty cool project coming, and she's going to tell you about it. This is Joy Blackman. Let's welcome her.
Thank you very much. I'm really happy to be here tonight. I think I have probably the best job in the county. Sorry, guys. It's me. I get the best job. But seriously, these guys work closely with our department and help us come up with the right projects, do the design for us. We get the design management. Rob, you raise your hand for me. Rob does the construction management side of engineering. And Matt, if you raise your hand, sit down. Oh, you are. Never mind. He does the drainage design side of the house. So these 2 guys will be around for us later tonight, and you can talk to them some more if you need to. But yes, let's get back to what you really want to talk about. The Don Carlos area where we had the River Road, we had the River Road culvert project going, and that was a lot of fun, wasn't it, when it was closed? Didn't you like that? That was fun, right? Sorry, but it's done. So now we need to get the area of Don Carlos, Sequenzico, all those roads fixed and get them up to speed again. I know they're horrible, and it's absolutely no fun at all driving through there. That project is underway in terms of thank you for the money. We're going to go spend it. We actually have awarded that contract. Notice to proceed, I believe, is tomorrow. That doesn't mean they'll be there tomorrow. You know that, but it is underway. The other project that you might be curious about is the Inter-Arity Causeway and the fact that we were talking about overlaying out there and getting some of that area raised up. They're actually supposed to finish that before the end of the month. So we're excited to see that that contractor is on the ball, and not as on the ball as I'd like, but they're going to get it done this month. So we're happy to tell you about that. I did want to mention just a couple others, if it's okay.
I love it.
All right. Another big project that Matt will be working on in the next few months, Biomarcus Basin Study. That's a huge project for design studies, basically. It'll help us look at all of the area of that basin and see what things are needed. So it's kind of a 10,000-foot look. And then we'll drill down and get some better projects going. The ARPA funding has helped us out a lot. We'll be doing some work in Deerfield. Wanted to also give my friends over here a little credit for those projects you heard about. The multi-use path, sorry, Rob. That's Rob's team in the construction management, so I want to give him a little credit for that. And generally just tell you that I get to do all of those fun things as well as any of the other resurfacing and construction projects. We get to take credit for that. So thanks for all the help, guys, and thanks for all the money.
Absolutely. And it ain't my money. It's your money. And on that topic, whenever we have a meeting like this, I always take the opportunity to thank you, the citizens. You're so generous with your 1 penny. That 1 penny of sales tax, you have no idea how that gets spread around. That allows us to buy sheriff's department vehicles, top of the line. It allows us to buy fire trucks and a ladder and apparatus. It allows us to build things like the Bellevue Library for the kids over there, the kids in that part of the community centers. It allows us to do all these things. You know, not every county has it. That's because of you, your generosity. And I'll also put in a plug for the school board. You know, when I was on the school board, we didn't get a full penny, we got a half penny. But that was a godsend. I'll tell you what, we would not have built many of the schools that we built. We wouldn't have rebuilt Ernest Ward. We wouldn't have had the money for Global Learning Academy. Just the amount of things, AK Suter, rebuilding that one. We just wouldn't have had the money. So thank you. I know that from time to time those referendums come up, and it's amazing. Some communities will not vote for it, but Escambia County is always like 70%. And I think it's because of the stewardship of both the school district and the county. But I always want to take the opportunity to thank you, because not every community does it. We see some nearby communities, and they voted it down a few times. And I know it's great consternation to those commissioners because it's tough. But let's move forward. We talked about public access. We talked about the restrooms. There will be a brand new fire station that's coming. We just finished one in Beulah. Here's another long-term project. Station 20 closed in 2018. That was on Bower Road, and that serviced, Ramsey Beach up there off of 98 and Bower Road. Well, we found a little piece of property that's owned by the Navy. They have Bronson Field next door, and we started the process, and then COVID hit. And then there were some personnel changes with NAFEC. It's been a long process, but the good news is last month we completed the initial paperwork to transfer the property, and I think we're in the pipeline. It's a 5-acre. It's really nice. It's high and dry. It's right on Bower Road, so we're going to start the work to clear that. We've already purchased some apparatus for it with your with your penny sales tax, so that's coming. Maybe we can get it in under 7.5 years like the Beulah. We're at 5.5 years already, but these things take a long time. But I'm very proud about that because we've pushed hard on that. And finally, I want to talk about public safety at the beach access points. Last year, tragically, we had some family members from, I believe, from Atlanta, and they were down here, and one member of the party got caught in a rip current, and a young man, and then his uncle went out to try and save him, and then he got caught, and then another member of the family went out, and they got caught, and 3 of them died. And it was a tragedy. So one of the things that I've always said that we needed out here, just like we have at Pensacola Beach, is lifeguards. So I'm very proud we have them out here, and I'm going to continue to work as hard as I can to keep them out here because we just saved one life. I mean, that was tragic looking at the picture of that young man. I can still see his face. And, they come here, and they just don't know. A lot of them are not used to the ocean. They're used to rivers or the lakes, and this is their first time coming down, and, it was a tragedy. So I'm thankful for the lifeguards. Thank you, Wes. Thank you, Eric. Eric Gilmore runs public safety. And I think that's been a home run hit. I know the folks out here really appreciate that. Okay, we're going to talk about a cool part of the show that I like. It's called audience participation. Now, you don't really have to participate if you don't want to. But I'm a pretty curious guy. I got a list of questions. I like to know what people are thinking. And this is like, it's kind of like a comedian. You get instant feedback. You know if the joke's going to work. Boom. If not, you move on and you move to the next one. So here, you've got an agree or you got to disagree, right? So if I make a statement or ask a question, we're going to do this real quick because I want to get to your questions. We've got, probably 20 questions. But this gives me some instant feedback. So I'm going to go through these really, really quickly. Agree or disagree? The biggest issue in this part of District 1 is traffic. Agree or disagree? Wow. Okay. That's got to be a unanimous. I'd say that's like 95%. I saw one red. Who was the red card? What's your problem? If it ain't traffic, man, what is it? What? Okay. All right. Okay. Well, now I'm going to trick you because now here's another question. The biggest. you can't have more than one. The biggest. So the biggest issue of District 1 is stormwater or flooding. That's an issue, but is it the biggest? Yeah. See, no, it's not stormwater. That means we're doing. Joy, that means we're doing good work. That means we're doing work. We're getting the flood water. Again, I get back to the 25-year flood standard versus the 100-year. I really think we need to go to the 250-year. I mean, like it or not, things are changing. We're having storms. We're getting more rain. It's crazy. All right, so that was definitely a no on that one. Okay, this is a pretty open-ended question. It's pretty basic. Do you support property rights for owners of their private property? Do you support property rights for the owners of their private property? I see that as unanimous. Okay, that's 100%. Do you support ordinances and zoning to keep property development orderly in your community? Ordinances and zoning. Okay, yes, people realize that's necessary. Okay, that's 100%. Do you like the idea of a standalone apartment ordinance in the county's LDC that would mandate notification of residents prior to permitting multifamily developments? I knew it. See, I knew it. You guys, we got to do that. I mean, the people want it. They want it. Appreciate that. All right. This is a question. Agree or disagree? I have attended one or more meetings of the Escambia County Planning Board. Only if you're telling the truth. Come on. Have you really? Okay, I see some cards turning. All right. Well, I appreciate those of you who have, because I'll tell you what. It's like it could be a 5-hour meeting, and those people don't get paid. My guy has been on there 7 years. He's a retired Marine. Amazing. He does it out of the goodness of his heart. He's very, very good. And you know what? He makes a lot of decisions that I wouldn't make. I would disagree with, but I let him go. Each of us have our own appointees on these boards. I've got another one that serves on the Island Authority. She makes some decisions I wouldn't go with. But just so you know, there's always positions that could be filled, and we need community members to fill it. But if you go to a planning board meeting, I guarantee you will find it to be very interesting because you'll learn a lot. So I appreciate those of you who have, and those of you who haven't, I would invite you to attend. Go check it out and see how it all works. Okay, I have attended one or more meetings of the Escambia Board of County Commissioners. I've attended a lot of them. No, you haven't been to one? Come on. Everyone else has. No, that if you haven't been to one, they have their moments. I'll just put it that. Public forum can be very, very interesting. Let's just put it that way. Just leave it like that. Okay, the current infrastructure for hurricane evacuation out of Perdido is sufficient. Okay, yeah, right. That's why that project was so important in 2013, man. If Gene could have just got that one, if he could have just waited on the bingo, he should have waited till after the election on the bingo palace. Maybe we would have that road. Man. Do you support our efforts to make Sorrento Road a 4-lane? I hope this is all green, please. Do you support our efforts to make Sorrento Road a 4-lane road? Yeah, I don't see. Is that a disagree? Okay, we got one disagree down here. I'm not going to say who. No, I'm just giving you a hard time. Come on. All right, but I would say that's 99% want that. 91. Okay, here's a good one, though. I've had a lot of people ask me. In fact, me and the traffic engineer before the meeting had a long talk about this one. Should the speed limit on Perdido Key Drive from the bridge to River Road in the core be lowered from 45 miles per hour to 35 miles per hour? Okay, boy, this is mixed bag. Mixed bag. Wow, okay, I think that's about 60-40 against. I appreciate that. That's not what I thought I would see. Very good. Thank you. Okay, would you support the establishment of an MSBU to assist in the costs of burying electric transmission lines on Perdido Key? MSBU, would you? Okay, municipal services benefit unit. In other words, if you live in a condominium and you want your utilities buried, you would pay your proportionate share. Would you support that? Would you support it? Okay. I think a lot of people don't really understand the concept. It just means for the benefit your property receives, you would have to pay whatever the proportionate share is. You would have to pay. I'm looking at ways. I believe the utilities at Perdido Key should be undergrounded, just like they are in Pensacola Beach. I own property out there. All those utilities are underground. It looks better, and after a storm, it's much more resilient, right? You don't have to worry about power lines down. It's safer. They have it out there. I think we should have it at Perdido Key. So there are multiple ways to do it. We got to work with FPL. Let me just ask that question. How many people would support undergrounding utilities on Perdido Key? It should be unanimous. Those wooden poles look terrible. Frankly, the concrete ones do too. Sorry, FPL. They just do. They just, giant, terrible. All right. Everyone, that's 100%. Everyone wants those underground. Okay. Now, I'm going to put 0 on that. Okay, this is a question. I just kind of throw this out there every time I have one of these meetings. I like to throw this out. Take it with, you don't have to participate. You don't have to do it. Our local newspaper, the Pensacola News Journal, is in step with our community's values. Boy, that's a lot of red. That's a lot of red. Wow, I wish I had the camera from this side. Yeah, you're seeing green from the camera, but believe me, it's red coming this way. You know what's funny? Every town hall here, she disagrees. Okay, all right. Okay. Look, I'm allowed to do that because they've officially done 27 cartoons of me over the last, I'm not kidding. My kids have copies of all of them, and you know what they tell me? They go, Dad, come on, it's great. You're going to love this one day. I said, I'm not there yet. I'm just not there yet. But luckily, that cartoonist is gone. So I haven't had one in a while. Knock on wood. Where's the wood? Knock on wood. Anyway, I'm breaking stuff. All right. One last question on that because I must. I believe what I read in the local newspaper, the Pensacola News Journal. Oh, Davis, we got to get a camera angle from this side, man. Hold them high. Turn them around. All right. I just like to do that because that way I know it's not just me. All right. Very good. I'm sorry, I'm indulging a little bit. I trust the mainstream media in the United States of America. Whoa, that's visceral. Let me tell you what, that's all red. That's all red right there. That's redness. Well, look, I'm not the only one. Okay, here's back to normal. I support keeping the roundabout at the intersection of Johnson's Beach Road and Perdido Key Drive if it is enlarged and the lanes are centered properly. Okay, we're still good. Okay, I'll read this question again. I know I read it kind of fast. I support keeping the roundabout at the intersection of Johnson's Beach Road and Perdido Key Drive if it is enlarged and the lanes are centered properly.
Oh yeah, let's make a mistake bigger.
Okay, we got some disagreement. I'd say, wait, you can't flip it both ways. She's going back and forth. I'm like, come on, how am I supposed to? Guys, it's 80-20. Agree, 80-20. 80-20. Okay, well, it's okay. Hey, look, mid next month, I'm gonna bring it back. We'll have another town hall about it, right? Can we do that, right? We can show them the simulations. Look, I'm gonna find the solution. That's what's gonna happen. Okay, this is a good one. Remember I told you about staff and how hard they work. Escambia County staff and the elected commissioners are responsive to community requests. I lump them in with me, that way I get more agrees. See how that works? But that's great. Hey, all green. The News Journal red, county commissioners green. See how that works? All right. That was kind of a trick question. I'm sorry, guys. Okay, here's a very serious one, because we hear a lot of people saying, "Oh my God, the sky is falling." This is a question. This is a statement. You tell me if you agree or disagree. The quality of life here in Escambia County is good. That's right. I got a few disagrees. That's fine. Hey, but I'd say it's probably 95%. I mean, I believe it. I've been all over the place. My dad was in the Navy. We went everywhere. Overseas, here. Okay, this is an important one, and this is one I expect a lot of support for. Do you support impact fees? We talked about it. Impact fees on developers so that our infrastructure keeps up. Every time I have one of these town halls, it's 100%. I'll be honest with you. We may not get impact fees, but I think we can get transportation mobility fees, and I know we can get concurrency. And those are probably the next best thing, the closest thing. But I'm glad. Thank you for your honest answers. That means, and that also tells me something. There's not one builder in this room tonight. Not one. They put up the red. Well, I had one where I think he wanted to beat me up after. All right. Do you support okay, how many people know what an E-date is? E-date. Economic Development Ad valorem tax exemption. E-date. Anyone know? Okay. This is what we do for big businesses when they are going to bring a bunch of jobs and invest a lot of capital in equipment and property. It's what we did for Navy Federal Credit Union. We give them a number of years where we abate their taxes. Now, we can never abate the school board taxes. They have to pay full school board taxes from day one, but we abate their county taxes for a number of years in exchange for them to create jobs and do capital investment. So that's what an E-date is. We've done it a number of times. We do it for big companies. If it's an existing company is going to add a new production line or something, we've done it for them. ST Aerospace, we do it when people are going to bring jobs. How many people in the room support that? Okay, we got some disagrees, but we got a lot of agrees. I'd say, look, I think we got a lot more agrees. I'd say that's 80-20. Yeah, some people don't. I mean, look, but I'll tell you, there's a pitched battle for these good companies. And a lot of people are upset with me right now because there's a company that wants to come and build in Beulah on OLF 8. In fact, I saw some folks from Beulah. Are they still here or did they leave? They must have left. It's too bad because I wish they were here to hear this. When these companies decide that they want to spend tens of millions of dollars or potentially hundreds of millions, they are very, very cautious in how they proceed. That's how business works, right? Because they have employees working where they currently are, and if someone starts talking about what could happen, people will jump ship. You already have this big problem of employees just ghosting. I mean, they just don't show up. So employers are very guarded with the information. So there's a big company, wants to bring a lot of jobs. They're not the highest paying, but it's a good company, and there's lots of potential. But we're not naming the name because we are under a non-disclosure agreement, an NDA, so we can't. And we do that to protect the company, and it's completely legal under statute. But I will tell you, if we do the deal with this company in a set period of time under statutes, it all comes out. It all becomes a public record. It just protects their interests. Well, about 22, 23 years ago, there was a project called Project Tucker. It was to bring a small call center to Beulah, Project Tucker. And they kept it under wraps because there was a pitched battle between, I think, Vienna, Virginia, it might have been Virginia Beach, and Pensacola about keeping, to get this like 800 call center job. And it's kind of like this current thing that we have in Beulah. They weren't the highest paying jobs. These were like the $10, $12 jobs in the early 2000s. But we won, and we got it. And Project Tucker was Navy Federal Credit Union. So we got the foot in the door. We had their call center, low paid. In fact, in 2005, the commissioner of District 1 at that time came to my subdivision, which was right across from the field, right across from where Navy Federal's call center was. And I remember I asked him, I said, Commissioner Whitehead, what do you think of Navy Federal? I've been a member for many years since my dad was in the Navy. We lived in Japan. He goes, those are just a bunch of $10 call center jobs. Honest to God, he said it. And I thought to myself, wow. Yeah, those jobs, that was the vanguard, right? They were the first on the scene, but then they saw this great potential in Pensacola, and now see what came of that. Now they've got their entire headquarters here, 10,000 employees, $500 million payroll, $500 million with a B every year, and $1.2 billion in the ground invested in capital investments. I mean, it's incredible. One small thing, but we did it with an NDA, and those jobs weren't the best jobs. Kind of like this company. This company could lead to something like that. So I say all that to say, we're asking questions about E-dates. Sometimes you got to give a company like that a break for a couple years. Otherwise, they end up in Austin or Charleston or Savannah, because I'm telling you, make no mistake, these companies know communities and counties are willing to pay to get a good company. So I'm glad to hear that most of the people in the room understand that. I think it's a function of government, obviously public safety, obviously infrastructure, quality of life, but bringing good jobs, making our economy diverse. In the 80s when I graduated, I'm telling you, a lot of kids had to leave. There just weren't a lot of opportunities. I want it to be where a kid, if he graduates, he can go to school here if he wants to, he can stay and get a career if he wants to. And we're 10,000 jobs at Navy Federal, 2,000 jobs at ST Aerospace. You're reading a lot of stuff in the paper. Believe me, there's a second part to that story. Let me just tell you. I've talked to people at ST. There's a second part to that story. Good companies, a lot more that you haven't even heard of. We got Project Laser at Pensacola State. We've got a company called Circulogene downtown. They do this amazing stuff with blood. They can tell if you have cancer. Minimum starting salary over $100,000. That's an important function of the government. Keep good jobs here. Keep our kids here. Let's let's lose the brain drain. I mean, I watched graduating classes every year when I was on the school board, and it was sad because so many of them left. Imagine if you can keep them here, if they want to stay. And that's part of what I want to do, and that's what e-dates allow us to do. All right. I'm almost getting to the end here. These are the good ones. Okay. Do you support, we talked about this before, do you support the 1 penny local option sales tax for financing infrastructure and vehicles for the fire department, the sheriff's department? Thank you. Thank you, because you will see more referendums coming, and we appreciate your continued support. Thank you for that. Okay, this is a great question. Oh, okay, please. Okay, no, that's fair enough. Hey, that's fair enough. She said if they don't have off-duty officers parked on the beach with the cars running. I don't know. I'll have to ask the sheriff about that, but that's an interesting opinion. Okay, this is a great question. Boy, you guys could tee off on me now. You could tee off now. Here you go. Do you support term limits for federal elected positions like senators and congressmen? Yeah. Of course you do. Well, I got one that says no. Okay, that's interesting. No, in the back. But that's fine. Hey, that's fine. So I would say it's 99%. Look, I support it. Okay, but here's the great one. Here's where you get to tee off on me. Do you support term limits for all Florida constitutional officers, including county commissioners? Okay, that's a no-brainer there. Okay, I always ask that because I always like to know. Okay, and we talked a little bit about this before, and now I'm going to ask you, and again, this is voluntary for my knowledge. Do you support the concept of incorporating Perdido? Okay, a few people do, but I would say it's probably 85, 90, 10. Okay, all right. Do you support, this is a new question. This one I've never asked before. I'm working on some new material here. So it's not going to be about the News Journal. That's a setup question, really. Okay, do you support the concept of a charter county with a strong elected county administrator? Do you know? Yeah. Yeah, a lot of disagrees out there. A couple agrees, a lot of disagrees. Yeah, I don't support that either, and I'll tell you the reason why. I worked for many years on the school board, and we had that. We had one guy in charge of everything. You had 5 elected board members. Many times, the 5 of us would say, we want this, and we would vote for it, but the one executive that was elected countywide would say, nope, and he wouldn't do it. That's what happens when you give all the power to one person. Now, I will say we corrected that. You corrected it. The voters corrected it. Now we have a modern system in our school board. 5 elected school board members, and they search the country and cast a wide net and get a qualified superintendent of schools, and they supervise him. And guess what? If they don't like him, they get rid of him. We had that happen once already. Now they got a good guy in there. And guess what? Since we did that in 2018, I'm talking school board stuff for a minute here, and I'm probably making a mistake because I know half the people didn't want it. But I can tell you, let me just tell you, since we did it in 2018, that school district has improved. They've been a B school district ever since. And I'm telling you what, you give your 5 elected board members the opportunity to show the administrator the door when he ain't getting it done, and guess what? Things improve. So anyway, same thing with the county. We've got a great administrator, Wes Marino, but he works for us. That's the way it has to be, because I work for you. If he was elected, he would do, I mean, I'm not saying what he would do, but I can just tell you, power. I don't know, Wes, what would you do? No. There's an old saying by Lord Acton, power corrupts. Absolute power corrupts absolutely. Now, I don't mean that in the, I'm just saying. I'm not saying the former superintendent was corrupt. I'm just saying he had so much power, it nullified the board. We might as well have been, well, I don't want to say that. We were certainly diminished. Our power was diminished. I'll put it that way. Anytime you got 5 board members voting for something, we want this, and the one elected guy tells you no, you've got a broken system. Some of the stuff you see in our meetings, 3-2, we fight, that's democracy, man. That's a constitutional republic. So anyways, I'm glad to see that. All right, this is an easy one. This is the last question. 27, do you support my effort? I'm going to try and go get this with Don Gates when he gets elected. I want to replace the Theo Bars Bridge. I want a modern bridge there. I want a walking path on the side of it. Do we support that? I'm going to go to work. We need a new bridge out there, guys, and we got to get Sorrento 4-laned. It's coming. It's coming. It's coming. Okay, I appreciate that. Without further ado, we're going to go right to your questions, and we're going to go rapid fire. We got staff here. If I can't answer them, they will. And we'll start right out with the first one. Tom Kinnear wants to know. Okay, we got some more. Westgate traffic relief efforts. Okay, we talked about that, Mr. Kinnear, and oh boy, we got a lot more. All right, that's an issue that we're working with the Sheriff's Office and the Navy. They have their practices, which we love. We love the Blue Angels. I want to keep the Blue Angels right here in Pensacola. Anyone says otherwise is making a critical mistake. We love our Blue Angels, but I think, thank you. Please call me. Okay, I will. I think that if we asked the skipper of the base to open at 7 a.m. instead of 9 a.m., right? And I think if we allowed them to move that line and that log jam from the gate, take it 2 miles down the road to the entrance to the museum and do your checkpoint there, right? Do your checkpoint there. Get that off the roads. If we can't do that, and I know there's a million reasons why, security, this, that, or the other thing. But if not, we've got to find a way to divert the traffic. What we can't have is have people parking in front of subdivisions. People can't get out. So there's a workaround. We're working it. Meanwhile, we're thankful for the Blue Angels, the amount of money they generate for our community, and the goodwill. In 2012, I actually had the opportunity. I was chosen to ride in the back of one of those jets, and I'll tell you what, that was the best roller coaster I was ever on, man. That was amazing. My kids, you talk about having fun with a video. They thought that was the funniest thing. And by the way, that video will never see the light of day. Never. Okay. Couple questions here. Expanding the left turn lane at Sorrento, Doug Ford. We're doing that. We're getting rid of those cones. We're going to do it, right? Aren't we doing that? Yes. Wait, no, we're talking about Morella. Okay, help me with this, Chris. Can we expand the left turn lane at Sorrento Road and Doug Ford Drive for safety? Is that something we can put on our list to look at?
That would be a 4-lane effort.
Yeah.
Something that they could make longer in the 4-lane, but since it was just done, that would be great.
Yeah, Doug Ford, yeah, because we just did add that light there. And by the way, that was a Herculean effort, too. But I know the folks in Perdido Bay Country Club really appreciate that. Now you can actually make a left without having to take your life in your hands. Street lights on Sorrento from Innerarity Road to Blue Angel. It's too dark along that. That is. How do we make that happen? We got to work with the state. Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm bringing them up. How do we make that happen? Yeah, have a seat.
DOT did a traffic lighting study just prior to my arrival here in 2022, and they found that the accidents were not affected by lighting. The lighting played no role in the accident. And there has to be a very compelling reason for that to take place. So they're probably not going to do it. I mean, quite honestly.
Well, I'd rather be honest.
Yeah, I mean, and I don't want any unreasonable expectations. Now, I mean, we can petition them again. We can always ask more. But they are very proactive to light the intersections where people are making a lot of turning movements. But along a isolated corridor like that, not so much.
Okay, that's a fair question. See, it's their road, their rules. We just got to navigate them, and we got to work our way through them. Finally, stormwater runoff from Warrior Court through the ditch behind homes along Pale Moon Drive to the bay. I have been fighting to get this fixed to ensure unimpeded water flow, eliminate the flooding in the backyards, and to eliminate mosquitoes. I will call this individual. Thank you. Got another one. I'll take this for action. I will call you. Put this in my pocket. Okay. And I appreciate you being here and giving the questions. All right. When are we going to pave Innerarity Road, road paving, sales tax? We do this back in the 80s. Long-range plan, Sorrento, PK Drive. I think you've heard a lot of that, Jimmy, what we're planning on doing. Joy, what are the plans for Innerarity Point Road? Is that on our list, and where is it at on the list? That's a fair. Okay. Can you follow up with this individual? Okay. So that's what I'll do. If I don't know the answer, I'll give it to the staff, and she'll follow up with you, Jimmy. That makes it a lot easier for me, I can tell you. All right. Tammy, plans for underneath, the Bars Bridge. Yes, this is a big deal. Underneath the Bars Bridge, there's the Entertainer, there's a couple of restaurants, and there's a really neat opportunity under there, right? You've got an ugly under the bridge, but a lot of people park there, and I would like to work. How do we do this, and who do we work with? Is it the state, FDOT? How do we get a permit so we can beautify that? Chris, here you go. Come on, tell us how we can do it, because I'm all for it. I want to make a nice little entertainment district under there, parking, palm trees. How do we do it?
Well, I mean, the first thing to do would be to ask DOT. It's their property.
Can you do that?
I can absolutely do that.
We're going to do it.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Chris.
Yes, sir. No worries.
See how that works? It's very easy. We're going to ask. Yeah, hey, you never get anything if you don't ask, right? You got to ask the. Oh. Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. Here, please. Yes. Tammy. Okay. I just returned from Texas, where the 2-lane speed limit is 75 with wide shoulders, and they also have passing lanes on the 2-lane roads regularly. Is legitimate question. Is this feasible in Perdido Key? Sorry, no. Sorry, Dean. That was a fast one. That's a fast no. I'm not even gonna try on that. Yeah, sorry. Okay, Joe. Yes. Okay, thank you. Slab across from Access 2. The slab across the street. What are our plans for it? Is it ours? Do we own it? It's not ours. Okay, it's not ours. So, who owns it?
Yes, it belongs to Lennar.
Belongs to Lennar.
Lennar says it belongs to county.
Uh-oh, we got a problem. Houston, we have a problem. Who owns it? She says that they say it's ours.
Easier in front of the microphone. It does not belong to the county. They are considering the possibility of donating it to us in the future as they close out their environmental permits. But it has not happened. They absolutely own it.
Okay, thank you for that definitive. That was pretty definitive. I mean, I think they own it. Pat McClellan, where's Pat? Oh, there's Pat. Okay, why is there no mass transit during? Yeah, you're right. To Perdido Key. Who can answer that question? Because I get asked. Pat, God bless you and everything that you do. He serves on the Mass Transit Advisory Committee. I think he did, and he served on the TPO Advisory Committee, the TAC. Who can answer that question? Did we ever look at sending buses out here during the season? How come we don't? All right, Wes. Sorry, man. Wes gets put on the hot seat now.
It's all right. So we just recently completed a whole route study for all of mass transit, and so we're looking at the routes. We're also looking at the type of vehicles. We've just were awarded a $907,000 grant today for microtransit, which is the next phase in mass transit, and we've reeled in some other $1 million grants, and so we will be putting that plan together, modifying our buses and modifying the types of buses that we're driving.
So maybe with the smaller buses, maybe we can.
They're a little more reasonable. I mean, the microtransit. So that's what we're looking at.
And while he's up here, I'll point out, just about 3 weeks ago, we got a $20 million grant for electric buses. The federal government gives $20 million. We can use electric buses. They're going to pay for a modern charging station. And last year, correct me if I'm wrong, our staff got over $100 million in grants last year. That's pretty amazing. I mean,
And you know, I see Tim there and Chips and Joy and company. That's nothing uncommon for us. We've been reeling in grant money for years. It doesn't get quite the publicity that maybe it should, but our staff does a great job at going after that grant money. And the thing is, and Joy and company will tell you, it's not just that you got the grant. Now you have to do the reporting, you have to meet all the criteria of the federal regulations.
It's a lot of work.
And it's a lot of work. And so, but the staff does a fantastic job at
I
that.
think that's amazing. I would like to see the News Journal report that. They won't. All right. Boy, I'm gonna have a hard time with this one. I understand a traffic study has happened for Perdido Key Drive. If there are plans to lower the speed limit, is it understood that this means the low-speed vehicles, golf carts, will be allowed on that road? Low-speed vehicles on Perdido Key. Yeah, I know. That's a non-starter. Yeah, that's okay. Oh, this is going to be fun. Okay, how many people still have your cards? How many people want low-speed vehicles on Perdido Key Drive? I kind of knew that was coming. We're looking at it, but I'll tell you this, based on what I saw tonight, I mean, maybe we're not going to go real aggressive on it. I will tell you this. I'm worried about the crosswalks. I was out there having a cinnamon roll. There's a young lady that sells cinnamon rolls there. If you've not stopped and had one, they're incredible. $7, and you're full after it. But while I was there was a family trying to cross the street, and people were blowing through the crosswalks, man. I'm afraid someone's going to get killed. So I'm all about safety. So here's the great news. So I talked to Chris about this. Chris, tell them what we're going to do we might have a solution here that everyone could get behind. Kind of like what they're doing at Pensacola Beach, but tell them what we can do on these crosswalks.
So we all know that we have the lighted crosswalks. You press the button, they start flashing. But in the noon Florida sun in July, it's pretty hard to see. And we have this big, wide expanse of road that DOT did for us before they gave it to us. So that encourages people to speed. We did a speed study, 85th percentile of motorists are doing about 45 miles an hour. But that doesn't help us too much at these crosswalks. So what we're looking at, just kind of in the infant stages of that, is to put a very small planter island in the middle of the road. And you're thinking, well, that's dumb. Well, what we can do is we can take that 17-foot wide, the 12-foot lane plus the 5-foot shoulder, and if we can compress that down to, let's say, 13 feet wide, that will slow people down. They will see that as a visual cue. Here is a pedestrian crosswalk. I'm going to slow down, and without doing a whole lot of massive reconstruction, just putting a visual cue in there. My folks that work on the traffic signals, sometimes to slow people down, they will put a single cone in the middle of the road, and people see that and they automatically slow down. So we're going to look at a lot of different alternatives there versus lowering the speed limit maybe for everybody through this corridor.
Yeah, that's reasonable. Yeah, I like that idea. That's good. Okay, so we got that answered there. I am worried that the Sunset Island may get endangered animals setting up house on the island, that it would make it off limits to the public. I'd also like to see the island available for the public in perpetuity, no selling the island like they did in Orange Beach. Well, I can tell you what, if we use public money to build it up with these dredge spoils, we certainly would never give it to anyone. I mean, I don't think we'd be allowed to do that under the law. And I don't know about boy, that would be a problem. We build it so people can go, and then some endangered bird comes, and then now you can't use it. Could that happen? Is that real? Could that really happen? We might have to rethink these islands. I don't know.
No, just generally speaking, you go to both Bear Islands. There's endangered birds on both of them. They're nesting in front of people's houses. In all likelihood, once this gets some shape and gets some range, we may have an area that we say a quarter of it, where you go ahead and you flag it off and sign it off and ask people to stay on the perimeter and kind of leave the center of it alone, and you're welcome to recreate with the rest of it. That area where you're not seeing people, those birds will utilize. If people are utilizing the whole thing, birds may show up, but if it's being heavily utilized, they'll never nest. So it's the whole
probably not
island.
gonna happen,
The
is it?
island itself won't get shut down. We would just look at a part for critters and a part for people.
No, I like that. So it sounds to me like it would never get shut down. So I'm an optimist. We're going to move the bird over here, and we'll have our space over here. All right, for Tim Day. Sorry, now that you've sat down. Seriously, it says for Tim Day. When the developer of Valencia and Isabella first submitted a pre-app, it was my understanding there was not enough wetlands even left on the key to mitigate all of the needs. What changed?
So nothing's changed. I'm not certain how to answer the question. So and you don't have to reread it. So there is a actual process with the Corps DEP where they can impact and mitigate wetlands. Most of the time, it would be on-site work that would result in that, them being able to impact a portion of the wetlands and get their permit. There are areas on the key, for example, in the center or the large node of the key that's relatively undeveloped, that is under private ownership, where they could, buy wetlands from those folks. So it's not that you can't hear it all. So instead of repeating everything, wetland mitigation is a state and federal process, and there are opportunities to go through it. As long as they're able to satisfy those state and federal requirements, they'll be able to get a permit.
Okay. All right. Fair enough. All right. To Commissioner Burgash, what can you do to inspire the county attorney's office to privatize the Perdido Beach lawsuit? Oh, prioritize. I'm sorry. My eyes are not what they used to be. Well, but is it your handwriting or my eye? To prioritize the Perdido Beach lawsuit and to quash it immediately, are you willing to consider outside counsel who has expertise in this matter? No, that's a great question. And in case, y'all haven't seen the news, about a year and a half ago, we realized that we had 64 parcels, and this is great. Go ahead and, if you have the package, this is a good segue into that. By the way, we prepared some maps for you, and I probably was remiss in not pointing you to the maps as we discuss the areas, but you'll see, if you look just the second page in, you'll see something that looks like this one. Okay, that's what that question's about. 64 lots deeded from the federal government to private parties in 1957. And all the deeds, we've got all the original deeds, we've looked them all up. And each and every one of them had language in there that specified that there would be a perpetual easement of 75 feet on the southerly part of each lot for a public beach in perpetuity. Each of the 64, each of the deeds. That's why in the 80s when I used to go fishing out there with my dad, no one ever put a no trespassing sign. No one ever said you can't go. It was always supposed to be public. The federal government wouldn't have deeded it otherwise. They didn't make a mistake when they put that in there. So something happened, I don't know, in the last 10, 15 years, and so a lot of the condos out there, they just put no trespassing signs, and they started kicking people off the beach. And they got away with it until I found out about it. Something else happened a couple years ago when this came back to District 1. We opened up that beach. Because listen, my job, I have to go by written documents and legal documents. That's a legal document from the federal government. And so now there's a lawsuit. They want to sue us to take away your right to go visit that beach. Well, guess what? I'm going to fight them, and we're going to fight them. And I'll tell you what, we will get a lawyer. If Steve West can't handle it, I'll bring that to the board, and we'll hire because we got to win this. We got to win. We cannot let people. The federal government specified it. It's in black and white. You can read it. And these lawyers are going to come around, well, but it didn't mean this and this and that. No, it means what it said. I don't deserve this job if I'm not going to defend written legal documents that were written. And so I'm gonna. Now, some people might not like it. Now, look at the other map because I want to make sure I'm very clear on this. I want there to be no misunderstandings. I'm a rule follower. I was a Boy Scout, literally. I was a Boy Scout. I follow the rules, so you'll read things about me in the news journal, but based on the cards, you know what to think about that, based upon the red cards I saw. Now, look at this map, this overall map, the first page. Every other parcel out there, all the ones down going back toward the beach, you see the blue line, where the blue line ends, every other parcel down here, that is their private property. That's their, you know how we know? Because I looked at every title on that beach. When I found out the one, I had the legal office, I said, pull every title. Man, the research they did. But, so here's the thing, I'm a rule follower. So all these condos down here, guess what? They own the beach all the way to the water. If you are one of those condo owners, I'm with you. I mean, I may not like it, but I follow the rules. And what was the question I asked earlier about property rights? Do you respect your property rights? I respect your property rights if you're one of these condos over here or all down here. That language is unique to this one area right here. So some people are saying, well, Jeff Bergosh wants to take all our land. Not true. I don't want to take anyone's land. I just want to enforce the documents that are memorialized, that the federal government memorialized. So that's what's going on. But if you're outside of that area, you own the beach all the way to the water. Do I like it? No. But guess what? I'll defend it because that's playing by the rules. So just want to make sure there's no ambiguity about that. Some people are saying some things. Yes, sir.
So if they own the beach all the way to the water, do they bear the cost of maintaining that beach?
Absolutely, 100%. Absolutely. So here's how that works. Pensacola Beach is all wide open and open now because they've had hurricanes and stuff like that, and we re-nursed it. Once you go in and you re-nurse the beach, correct me if I'm wrong, I think then it becomes a public beach. So, sooner or later, they'll have to come up with I don't know how many people own condominiums? How many people own condominiums? So they'll either have one I'll use the word heck of an assessment if they're going to re-nurse their whole beach, or they're going to come to us and say, will you help us? At which point, I believe it would become public, right, if we do it. So anyway, I just wanted to make that point. I'm going to go through these quick because I respect your time. By the way, again, I want to thank each and every one of you for coming. It's a lot of information. It's a lot of stuff, but it's important that we have these meetings. There's a lot going on. Yes?
I couldn't get it all, and I wanted to mention one thing. Is there a way that the county can look at, right now when there's an emergency 911 call, they send a huge fire truck. Those fire trucks weigh a ton. They go into these communities and they tear up the road. Not that we don't want them, but I've seen other communities
Yeah. I,
You can save millions of dollars if you don't run those trucks and get smaller vans and send medical crew out.
I don't know the legality of it. Eric Gilmore is our public safety. Do you want to speak to that? I know sometimes the fire trucks will send out the brush truck.
Hear the whole question.
Yeah, he wants to know why we run the fire truck.
Can't the county go to what Dane County goes to? They send a smaller, it's a big van.
Yeah.
But when you send a fire truck out and some lady passes out or a man passes out, they got low or high blood sugar or having a heart
Right.
attack. You don't need a huge, massive fire truck going in there to blocks entrances sometimes. You may have a fire down the road. That fire truck is needed there. You don't need a massive fire truck to go in there and respond on something.
You're right. So taking Miami-Dade, for instance, if you look at Miami-Dade, they have dual companies in their stations. So a dual company means I've got two different crews. At Station 19 on Perdita Key, it's 4 guys. They're a crew complement. So those 4 guys stay together. Now what they're doing now and what they've done this summer, they use the truck that pulls the jet ski. They're using that more often to go out and get that. The engine has to go with them because they got to stay a full complement because they can be ready for the next call. They all 4 have to go together, but they split up. 2 get on the truck with the jet ski and 2 get on the ladder, and they follow each other. And they try not to put the ladder in the complex, use the brush truck to get in there with the paramedics. So
It would save millions of dollars if we had those smaller units throughout the entire county.
you're, and it's going to take dual companies at the stations to do that. When we get dual companies, then we can break the companies down, and we can have 2 guys on a truck versus 4 guys on an engine, or keeping the companies together. Right now, the only station that we have as a dual company is Station 13 out at Pensacola Beach, and we do that out there. We got another dual company we're going to start at Inslee because it's one of the higher run stations. We're starting to get dual companies in this county, and that's going to help us out and cut down on the big trucks running all the calls. And
We don't have the kind of space.
no, you don't. You're absolutely right.
We need it out here worse than we need it.
And we do have the smaller vehicle, and they're starting to do that. And I'll talk to the fire chief about looking at some other modeling to try to get that done. But right now they're using what they call 1928 is the F-150 that they pull the jet ski, and they're responding to the medical calls with that truck. So, thanks, sir.
Sorry, thank you for that question. Okay, quick question about the SS United States. If you've not heard about this, okay, the SS United States is a 1,000-foot ship that's rotting away at a naval yard, scrap yard up in Pennsylvania. There's a movement afoot to bring it down here as another dive spot to complement the Oriskany. The Oriskany is very deep. You can only, as a recreational diver, you can only get like to the top parts of the tower. I mean, you can't even get down to the flight deck. But we do have a very niche market of these tech divers who come with these rebreathers. They come here to dive the Oriskany. Anyhow, long story short, we're raising money right now to see if we can bring that here and sink it off the coast in shallower water because something like that generates tremendous tourism. I mean, you got these dive tourists, they travel around the world, and they dive these wrecks. Right now with the Oriskany, what I'm hearing is the divers are going to Okaloosa County, and they're diving off of Destin, and they're taking one day driving over to Pensacola. We want them to come to Pensacola and stay in our hotels and generate lost tax. So we're raising money right now. I'm strongly in support of it. Look, it's a long view proposition. It's a lot like American Magic. When they pitched that to us 3.5 years ago, the other guys on the board, they brought it to the TDC. I sit on that board. And they said, look, we can do this. We can bring American Magic here. Here's the jobs. And I was all about it. I said, this is incredible. This is amazing. Fast forward it. We brought it to the county commission, and we've got behind it 100%. And now that team is coming here, and that's going to be a huge win. This is another situation like that. We get that ship sunk. They have estimated it would bring $3 million a year in tourist revenue. If you spend $9 million to sink it, your return on your investment is 33% per year. In 3 years, it's paid off, and then after that, it's gravy. And the great thing about it is it's an amenity you're building that requires no maintenance. We don't have to do anything. It's just there. So I'm in support of it, but the question is, what is the emergency action plan for the diving injury? Right now, there is a recompression chamber at Spring Hill in Mobile, and there's another one in Bay County. Each of the facilities, each of the hospitals have hyperbaric chambers. I've talked to a lot of people about it. The problem with having a recompression chamber is keeping it manned. Apparently, there's 3, maybe 4 of such incidents per year. And oh, by the way, a dive accident like that is not covered with your insurance. You have to purchase special insurance. So it's a monetary business decision, according to all the data that I've heard. There have been some tragic incidents. I understand a gentleman died a number of years ago. He couldn't. The Navy base has one, but they wouldn't let him on there to do it. But it's such a rare occasion that the action plan is you put them on a chopper and you fly them to Spring Hill. That's the action plan. That's the action plan to that question. Okay. Yes. Yeah, can you wait? Because I want to get through these comment cards and then we're going to have open session. I promise. I'll get to it. Hurricane Sally took down power poles on River Road, which inundated lights the street. Will they all be replaced? It is very dark to walk safely on the sidewalks. That's a good question. Who would answer that? Is that FPL? Is that an FPL? Okay, we have a lot. Okay, so we're going to get that repaired? Yes, sir. Okay. Bathrooms are closed and nasty porta potties at Access 3. Will this be corrected? The bathrooms at the standalone restroom at Access 3 is going bye-bye. We're going to level that thing, and we're going to put an additional 6 parking spots. We're going to put a level parking surface, and we're going to put porta potties, and we're going to have them nicely maintained very, very frequently. And we're going to have lattice around it, and that is a better solution. Like I told you before, we were finding needles, right? Bad things were happening. All our stuff was getting broken and busted. Here's the thing. To have a good restroom, it has to be staffed, right? At Pensacola Beach, they have the lifeguard tower, they have people there, and they're staffed. So people don't get away with it. But when you don't have a staffed location, your restroom is going to get thrashed. So the solution is that's how we're going to solve it. And go to Access 2 today. That's what Access 3 will look like. And it's better. Outdoor showers, no funny business going on in the restrooms with things beyond needles, right? You can imagine what I'm trying to tell you. I'm just not going to say it, but you could work it out. Here we go. Speed study, when? He just talked about it. Crosswalk to the beach club, from LK to beach club. What? Okay, sorry. Acronym. Okay, what's the story on that one? From Lost Key to across the street. Don't we have one? Do we have one there? I thought, or is that the one that's broken?
That's the one that's, yeah.
It's broken.
They're talking about from our sidewalk out of our complex, straight across. We're not looking for a lighted one.
Okay.
We have that at
Let me do this. I'm going to follow up with you, and I'll get more specifics, and I will follow up with you. Is that fair? Okay, thank you. Because we'll move on, because that's like I want to get this stuff. Okay, the city of Perdido, I think we answered that one pretty thoroughly. I think we killed the horse and made glue. All right. Ralph Schumann wants to know, what will it take to... Okay, so can I, do you guys communicate? Okay, well, I'll follow up with you too. I'll follow up with you. I promise I will. I'll find out. Okay, we get just a couple more. We already did that one. Okay, we got that one. Okay, now we're going to Tammy's question. Tammy, you have a lot of questions here. Where did the money come from to fund the... Boy, cursive writing, come on. I can't read this. This is kanji. What is it? I'm sorry, I can't read it. I'm sorry. That one's not going to get answered because I can't read. Okay, here we go. What percent of the Escambia County annual tax dollars come from District 1? That's a great question. I'm sorry I don't know the answer, but I know that it's a significant portion because we have Perdido Key. So I'm going to assume 20 to 25%, but I don't have that exact answer. If Stephen Hall were here, he would rattle off that exact precise number. Okay, was surprised to see the Sherwin Group. How can we find out about potential commercial development before it is approved? Okay, great question. We do a development review committee. We do it a couple times a month. It's always advertised. Go to our website and look at our schedules, and you'll know. And you will know everything that's coming before it happens because we do it in a public meeting, right? Right, is that correct? Yeah. DRC. That's how you'll find out. What is the plan for the Theo Barrs Bridge, where we're going to try and get state money to fix it, right, and modernize it? That's what we're going to do. Ask the sheriff, if you slow the speed limit to 35 miles per hour, that will allow golf carts. We already talked about that. No golf carts, right? No golf carts. Am I clear on that? I mean, no golf carts. As the key grows, what is the county going to do about improving infrastructure, roads, sewer, drainage? Well, we've talked about that at length tonight. There's a lot of different things we're going to be doing. I wish I had the better answer on ECU Way. I apologize for that. I thought Bruce Woody would be here. But I do know they're doing a project to increase the water flow down the way. Are you willing to stop Perdido City until the Barrs Bridge is replaced, fully operational? Well, that's not up to me to stop anything. I mean, that's up to you. You've got to do your homework and decide if you want it. And I mean, I hope that you do your homework. I think it's an extra layer of bureaucracy that you don't need. As long as I'm doing what you want me to do, you don't need that. You keep your tax burden low and get more of your fair share. That's the key, right? You guys never got any you never got any TDT money ever. We put a line item this year, $165,000. We're going to use that for building things like the crosswalks, right? Why wouldn't we? All of it was going other places. Now we're getting some of it back here. That's the way it works. I've always thought a 3-lane on Perdido Key would be a good thing. However, in the areas that are already a 3-lane, I see many, many people using it as a passing lane. I've heard it being called a suicide lane. What are your thoughts on that? I don't think it's a good idea. Anyone disagree? I think if you did have a 3rd lane, you know what people do when they want to get someplace. They're like the people when there's an ambulance ahead of you, they go on the side of the shoulder and they try and go around you. I don't foresee it happening. Any chance of it? Okay, traffic engineer shaking his head. So that's a no. Boy, this is something. Taxes are always an issue, but so are services. Currently, Escambia County Fire has EMTs in each station, correct? But ambulance service is not available in each fire station due to budget constraints. On Inouye Point and Perdido Key neighborhoods, residents must wait 30 to 40 minutes on average for emergency transportation by an ambulance. Then it is either 15 minutes to the nearest ER or 35 to 40 minutes to the nearest hospital. It says continue and then there's nothing. Eric Gilmore, you want to talk to that? We've had some issues, guys. I'll tell you what. We've had some issues with EMS and we're working it, but I will tell you this. If you have a serious medical condition and our available ambulances are at a heart attack or a drug overdose or a stroke, we're sending the fire trucks. We're going to send help. Now, the fire trucks can't, am I telling the truth?
That's correct.
All right, you tell them.
That's right. The fire trucks cannot transport, but on the Station 14, Pleasant Grove, and Inouye Point, Station 8 down the road here, they have paramedics on there. They're fire medics. They can do drugs, they can do intubation, they can do everything a road medic can, they just can't transport. So we send them for first response to get there to you quickly to assess and see what you got and start pushing drugs if we need to. So those guys will be there on top of that. Meanwhile, the ambulances coming from in town. We are a very busy system, and we don't have ambulances just sitting around. We're trying to get our staffing levels up. We bought additional ambulances. Wes has helped us get more staffing, more paramedics, more EMTs, and as we get those guys onboarded, then we can start slowing our system down and spreading the ambulances out throughout the county. Because we got the same thing in the north end of the county as we do over here on the west side. Right now, our sickest population, or our most calls, are what we call in the core, which is the Highway 29 from the interstate, from 9 Mile Road through there, and just off of 29 for some reason. That is where we get the most calls. Out here, we don't get a whole lot of calls. You guys kind of take care of yourselves, and you go do your checkups with your doctors and everything like that. The sick population is more in town, so unfortunate for you guys, but we are working to rectify that and get something out here. I will let you know also that I met with Chief Smith over at Orange Beach. They do have 3 ambulances over there, and if we get in a bind, we have an MOU with, or agreement with him that he'll send his Orange Beach ambulances over here and help transport. So we do have that. I just met with him last month, and we're supposed to meet with him again this month to keep that relationship going. So we're trying to find ways to fill the gaps until we get our staffing levels up. So thanks for the question, though.
Thank you for that, Eric. It's a problem, and every city has it, and what I've heard is every 3 years, you look at the EMS services around the country, every 3 years, on average, they will turn over their entire staff. It's a high burnout, high turnover job, and God bless the people that you have working over there. I mean, they just run those ambulances nonstop. And by the way, in case you didn't know, a lot of people don't know this, we don't spend a dime of taxpayer money on that. That's an enterprise service. In other words, their entire operational budget is paid for by the service they provide on the reimbursements from insurance and Medicare and Medicaid. So, and even with that, so they generate a surplus and we put it right back in. We buy additional equipment, we fund additional positions. We've also raised the pay. We've added bonuses, but they're hard positions to fill. It's a constant issue. We're going to be constantly fixing. We're almost 2 questions. But I want to ask because I don't want to run out of time. Is there anyone here that has questions that have not been addressed yet? Because I want to make sure. Okay, we got a couple. I'm going to get to you. I promise you. I'll get to you. Here's a quick question for me. You deny the roundabout. What were the speed strips that came and went? Whose idea was that? Okay, that was my idea. But they didn't work. So guess what? I took them out fast. Believe me. How fast did I take them out? My friend Sava called me and said, I felt like my front end was going to come off. I said, they're out of here. Boom, gone. All right. What is your opinion of incorporation? I think I made that pretty clear. We need a light at the intersection of Perdido Key and Lost Key, which has over 650 residential units. How can that be accomplished? Good question. How would we do that?
Signal warrant study, and if it trips it,
$500,000. Do you want to take that for action? See how we operate here? It probably ain't going to happen. Can I be real? Thank you, Chris. All right. When will the crosswalk lights be activated to the public? Okay, he talked about that. But you know, at some point, look, I'm not going to watch someone get run over. I don't care if we have to pay for it up front and sue someone. We got to fix that, right? Wes, we've got to fix that. I mean, we can't go round and round and say, well, I mean, I think at some point we fix it, and then if they don't pay, then we sue them. But I mean, it's been a long time. I think we got to take that for action. Okay. All right. Rumor has it that a truck stop is going in at 9800 Cordova, fill-in station, liquor store, and Old Vallarta's, allowed or not, Dead Man's Curve. Are there any plans to make that curve any safer? Any ideas? They're shaking their heads, so I think that's an urban rumor, urban myth. For Burgash, I like that. Burgash, okay. All right. What percent of the taxes paid by Perdido area property owners and businesses stays in Perdido, and why? I think I tried to answer that before. I'm sorry, I don't have, no one put their name on it, so I don't have that specific detail. I can tell you this, though. This is very interesting. We just did our budget, and we're going to finalize it in September. And this year, and look, we've never raised your tax rate. We grow this economy. We keep a static rate. And when we have good years and the property roll and the property values go up, we get a little extra money, and that allows us to do things like pay our sheriff's officers and our firefighters competitive salaries, right? There's a thing called a rollback rate, and it's a construct of the legislature. And what it says is, if the value of your tax roll goes up, you have to roll back your rate so that you don't take 1 penny more than you did the year before. But the problem is, with this inflationary environment that we're in, if you did that, you would strangle your public safety. You would strangle our ability to do anything. So here's my take. I think it's a construct of the legislature. I know why they do that. They want us to be portrayed as the people that are raising your taxes. So when you don't go to the rollback rate, you have to do what's called an advertised tax increase. You have to advertise a tax increase, but it's not a tax increase. We keep a static rate. And what does that mean? If next year everything hits the fan, right? Stuff hits the fan, we know about what that means. If that happens and our property taxes, our property roll goes down, I'm not going to raise the rate. I won't. I never have since I've been in office. And I've been there when it went down. I was there in 07 and 08 on the school board when the bottom fell out. And everyone, the first thing that school district wanted to do was raise your millage rate. They said, well, we're not going to get as much money as we did last year. And I go, yeah, right, you're not. Because people are losing their houses, their businesses, their jobs. That was the Great Recession. So you keep a static rate, you grow the economy, you bring in great employers, they build houses, you grow this tax, and you get a little extra money, and you make sure your sheriff's officers, your first responders, and your firefighters are paid well, and that's how you do it. But it's not a tax increase. If the IRS charges 30% on 100 grand, and next year you make 150, you're paying more in taxes, but they didn't raise your rate. They didn't raise your taxes. You just paid more on a static rate. That's the way I look at it. That's the way I operate. That way we can keep our sheriff's deputies the highest paid in the region and our corrections officers, because that's important, right? We get back to what's the most important thing. Public safety is the most important thing. We had a situation where we had a little adversarial relationship with a former sheriff. We sorted that out, got a multi-year deal, bang, now we're all friends again. We have a multi-year deal, and everyone's happy again. We like it like that. Okay, that's the end of all the questions. So, raise your hand. Okay, what's your question? I'll repeat it. Just yell it out real loud, and I'll repeat it.
Sure thing. Love the new multi-use path, but it's already getting overgrown. Like, those weeds are like a foot high. And same thing with Theobar's Bridge. By the way, I love the idea of having a new bridge with a walkway. That's
Man,
fantastic.
that's what we got to have.
But both sides of the bridge are so overgrown. It looks like they haven't been trimmed in at least a year.
Okay, his question is the Bars Bridge and the multi-use path is now starting to become overgrown. What are we going to do? Okay, what does that mean? What's that? We're going to tag team it. Okay, so this is Jamie Higdon. This is another hard-working guy. There you go, Jamie.
We're going to start in the morning. Michael Rhodes with Parks and my crews. We're going to start cleaning it, and we're making preparations to keep it swept as well. I mean, it's new. We don't have the staffing, so we're going to fit it in and make it happen.
What about the bridge on the sides? Is that us or is that?
No, that's not us. That's
Okay, here comes Tim. He's going to.
Well, no, I was just, under the bridge is generally FDOT, but we can work that out. Along the multi-use path, depending on where you are, most of what's been planted is sea oats and other native dune vegetation. So there's areas where it's going to be intended to actually have higher vegetation. That was one of the trade-offs for us to get it and part of the beach mouse mitigation. But But areas that were sodded, we left sodded, so those will continue to be managed. So the reason it's weedy is we were required to keep it weedy.